Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is September 7th, YC125. We are here outside of the lovely Jove Stargate in Turner, and I'm back, baby. This is the Eve Universe Show. How's it going, guys? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome if you're new. I haven't streamed in a while, so if this is your first time catching a stream live, welcome. If you've seen my videos before, thank you very much. Don't forget to like the stream, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's very useful. But let's go ahead and get started. As I said, we are in Turner right now, outside of this new Jovian Stargate, which we will be talking about the new Jovian Stargates at some point today, obviously, because that definitely falls under the category of everything that's been going on in the last few months. But I do want to go over some news first. It's good to be back, Mad Hatter. And I will say this, I'm going to probably talk about it more, obviously, towards the end or whatever, but, like, people talk about, you know, obviously you do your sponsor bids, or not sponsor, but, you know, you thank your patrons, you read them out that loud. I could not have made it through this summer without your guys' support. Anybody who watched a video, anybody who liked a video, anybody who shared it, anybody who supported Patreon, kept their membership going, all that stuff. It turned a very chaotic summer into a salvageable one. So I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to making a lot of content for you in this next upcoming season in order to make up for that. But let's go ahead and launch into it. Before we get too far into this, I am cognizant of the fact that I am both in low-sec and also people are aware of where I am. So I'm actually just going to dock up now. We got to check out this Stargate. We might come back and look at it later. But I'm going to dock up now so that way I don't get accidentally observatoried while we're just hanging out. Yeah, no, trust me. If I could have been making content too, I would have been. But there's a lot going on. I mean, my son is now 10 years old. He was with me the entire summer. So that was a whole thing. And then Baldur's Gate came out, and then Starfield came out, and yeah, then the summer was over. I hope you guys all had a good summer, though. Let us jump into the news, starting with, where's the thing? Where's the thing? Really? There it is. CSM 18. So the CSM elections are happening right now. Now, last year I did a whole bunch of candidates. Well, I think 2 years in a row. I did, maybe it was just, I don't remember. I did a bunch of candidate interviews. And I didn't get a chance to do it this year, partially because, so they changed the scheduling, right? Normally CSM happens in the spring, you know, or like late winter, early spring. And then the results are announced at FanFest in April. But this year they put FanFest in the winter, which has all kinds of tinfoil, which we will probably talk about later on in this video or in the stream. But hey, thank you, Ganai. Welcome to the membership and all that stuff. It's very, very nice for your support. Anywho, but so the CSM elections happened out of phase from where they normally were. And also it seemed like, to me, the election cycle was super short. It might have been because of the fact that I was more disconnected than I normally am during the CSM cycle. But it seemed like basically before I could even get something prepared, it was already voting was on. So I will say that I do have my old playlist of all of the guys that I interviewed, and several of them are running again this year. I think that those videos are still extremely valuable when it comes to digging into the way they think, and I had a lot of fun making a lot of them. So they're probably worth checking out. But I'm not really giving too much in the form of recommendations this year because, like I said, I have been more out of it than I would have liked to have been, and so I think it'd be kind of irresponsible for that. That said, let's be irresponsible, and I'm going to mention at least a few names that stand out to me in my dyslexic, I can't remember names addled brain. Angry Mustache is a kind of the new golden child of the Goonswarm CSM. He was elected this year. He is an economist, more or less, or he's yeah, very much economy, ecology, industry type person. Really good with numbers. I haven't agreed with everything that he says, but everything he says comes with spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, and he's a smart dude. I've talked to him about some of his stuff, and we've had some good conversations about his feelings about things and my feelings about things, and we agree about a lot of stuff. Let's see. Obviously, so Dark Shines is a well-experienced initiative pilot, or FC, along with Pando. Both of them are very well-known and good. Drake Idion is probably the most terrifying person in Pochvin, and he also knows it probably better than anybody else that I know of. Dutch Gunner, who is a friend of the show and here, he has been running for for several years now. He is probably the most locked-in lore candidate, or RP/PVE, PvPVE type candidates that are here. He was really big in the invasions. He did a lot of stuff with drifters. He's currently the guy at the helm of the Arydanika Research Consortium, which is the biggest RP group or like the biggest, most proactive sciencey RP group, as opposed to like Pi or one of them war-based, Amar First or Mimitar First or whatever groups. And the Arydanika Research Consortium was absolutely pivotal in coordinating the efforts of everybody. Like, I'll put it this way. When the Epiphany started, which we'll talk about Epiphany later, everybody just knew. Just like instinctively. We all were drawn to Arydanika Research Consortium's Discord like pilgrims to Mecca. Because everybody knew there's a lore mystery going on. What does Arydanika have to say about it? So, yeah, good guy. Gustav, Grima. See, there's a couple others that really jumped out at me. Mark Resurrectus, he's a big wormholer. He's currently CSM, so obviously, if you like him, then you like him. If you don't like him, you don't like him. If you're in wormholes and you don't know his name, you should probably ask somebody. Mike Azariah is one of my heroes. This man has been, like he said, CSM 8, 9, 10, 15, and 16. He is largely attributed for the existence of the Bowhead. He is constantly in rookie chat. He goes around and gives away free ships to rookies. The game would fundamentally be different without Mike Azariah in it. And I think that nobody knows the plight of new players better than him, which is a pretty big endorsement. I think that he should be on the CSM anytime, as long as he's still up to doing it. Pandorelica, like I said, a very, very, very well-known FC and streamer for the initiative. Phantomite has been on and off on the CSM before. He's very smart dude, PvP focused. I have an interview with him from last year. Stitch, I have an interview with. The Oz is probably one of the most well-known market aficionados. He's very good at, he does a lot of explanations about stuff. So obviously you can watch his stuff to see whether or not you agree with his positions. Torvald is one of the biggest guys when it comes to Abyss PvP faction warfare. The faction warfare that we got, the faction warfare update that we got, is, I don't know if I should say largely, but it was spearheaded by Torvald in a big CSM presentation when he was on the CSM 15. So while he was kind of frustrated that he didn't see any changes, a year later, because that, it takes time to implement things, they came out with Uprising, which was hugely successful for revolutionizing faction warfare, and a lot of it was based off of stuff that he brought up during that presentation. And then, there's a few other options. So the biggest thing that I would say is vote early. You should already have voted if you haven't. You have until the 11th. You get a free skin for the shuttle, Council Diplomatic shuttle for doing so. And of course, you get to decide basically 10 of these guys, or I guess 12 now? 12 or 13, right? 12 of these guys are going to be selected, 10 of them by us, 2 of them by CCP, to represent us to CCP for the next year. So they're going to get privileged information. They're going to get to see things before they come out. They're going to be able to give presentations to CCP directly, have inroads to CCP staff on all kinds of levels. Very, very important people. But voted, but still hasn't seen the skin. I imagine that they're going to just distribute all of the skins at the same time, like maybe on the 12th or something. But yeah, make sure you vote. And it's not single past the post, which is like standard voting, where like the person with the most votes wins. Bah! Like it's called single transferable vote. So if your top pick either gets eliminated because of too few votes or gets voted in and didn't need all of the votes that they needed to pass the threshold to get voted in, then your vote will go down to your second place spot. And if the second place spot is eliminated for whatever reason, then your third place spot, fourth place, until your vote gets consumed to get somebody elected. So make sure to fill out your ballot as full as you can, right? Like put 10 people on there. So that way, you know, at least one of your guys gets elected in. And if there is somebody that you're interested in that isn't like a major block candidate or something like that, like throwing it out there, Dutch Gunner, if you want Dutch Gunner to be elected, it is worth putting him as your number one spot. Because the thing is that the people with the less, every round, the person with the least amount of votes gets eliminated. So if everybody puts Dutch Gunner as a third spot, then Dutch Gunner could be eliminated. And then when the 2 people above him in your place gets like eliminated because they also weren't popular, it'll just skip over Dutch and go to the next person because he's already been eliminated. So it's really, really key. If you're truly supporting somebody, especially if they're like a dark horse candidate or like not a block candidate, it is extremely valuable to put them at the top of your list. So that way you can keep them in the running as long as possible. Yeah, ranked voting is so much better. So yeah, that's pretty much the CSM. Maybe next year I'll be able to do the interviews, but like I said, it was a monumental effort back before, and that was when I had more time and whatever. So it just wasn't going to happen this year. But the CSM is extraordinarily important. It is a very clear channel from the player base to CCP. It's not the only channel, obviously. CCP gets feedback from other places and all that stuff. I know that there's some people that always complain that the CSM is always like controlled by null set candidates or whatever. But the truth is that redundancy in candidates, like if one group gets 2 or 3 people, it's not like it really does anything because it's not like they're a voting body. It's important to get as many voices as possible, many different voices as possible in the CSM, just so that we have the people in the room when these discussions are being made. Because CCP isn't going to just be like, oh, well, all of CSM agrees on it, therefore we have to do it. They realize that the CSM may have their own biases and all that stuff. And so the less biased the CSM is, the more effective it can be. So get out there and vote. I'll be interested to see, given the changes that they made to the CSM voting process, how the turnout ends up being, right? I'm afraid that what we'll find is that all these changes are going to end up with the voter turnout being low because there wasn't a lot of time and it was kind of when people weren't really thinking about it. That's my fear. And I'm even more afraid that people are going to use that as a way of suggesting a lack of interest in EVE Online or in the CSM or blah, 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 as like a talking point. So I'm just going to get ahead of that and say, like, I wonder how the CSM vote is going to go this year. Get out there and vote. Next. So we had a new monthly economic report come out. And so I wanted to talk about that. First, I'm going to put on an ad, though. We're going to do an ad because you can't stop me. Boom. All right. So we like to do the monthly economic report here every month. And what I normally do is I also pull up the previous few months. However, because I haven't been able to stream that much, I haven't been able to do the previous few monthly. I don't remember which one was the last one I did. So we have August, July, June, and May in order to reference. We're going to go through this and look at it and see what we can find. I'm doing this mostly blind, and these are just my inputs. I know that there are other people with other opinions about it that are probably maybe even more informed, but this is just kind of what I take out of it. Laughs at ad break one on YouTube Premium. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fine. Hey, man, YouTube Premium's awesome. I appreciate it. And the more you watch my videos, the better it is. I appreciate it. All right. So first things first. Like, you know what? I might actually have to go find something else because I want to show it to you guys. But so the very first thing you can see, so if we have March, April, May, June, July, August, so I guess it's that last little bit, we can see that there's this huge uptick in production, destruction, and mining within the last month or so, which is pretty wild given the fact that usually the summer is a time of less activity. Actually, you know what? Hold on. This is Eve Offline. It does an ongoing tranquility thing. Let's look at the 3 months there. So we can see, even look at 6 months. So normally what we would see is we would see a summer slump. But because we were already pretty low at an all-time low prior to Uprising, and because of the success of Uprising and Viridian, we actually see a pretty steady, even time during the summer. Uptick in industry, prelude to another conflict? Possibly. But was there an industry change that happened this month? Or last month? Can't remember now. Anywho, either way, this seems really interesting to me because it basically signifies a huge amount of uptick in activity, because it's also destruction. This isn't just a bunch of people building stuff. You also see this uptick in destruction. So we're just seeing this major uptick in all kinds of activity without a serious uptick in player base, which is, or, peak concurrent user base, which may be an indicator of how worthless the peak concurrent user stat is. Or it may be an indicator that the people that are logging in with less alts and doing more productive things while doing so. What we did get with Viridian is things like home fronts, projects, and all that kind of stuff, which could, I mean, like, it may be optimistic to say that any of that influenced these numbers, but we're going to have to see as we go through. See summary of key economic figures by region. I don't like this stat very much because it's hard to, like, it's just poorly laid out for this purpose. So destruction of Pochvin, 1.81 trillion. Was it last month? 2.45 trillion. Wasn't that there? So hold on. Yeah. So actually, no, that wouldn't count as destruction. So last month there was a huge Fortizar that blew up in Pochvin, and it dropped a lot of stuff, just a lot of stuff. But the problem is that not much of that was destroyed, so it won't factor in as destruction. We do see kind of this increased destruction in Pochvin during the months leading up to this, as Pochvin kind of or it looks like, honestly, that Pochvin may have cooled off a little bit in the last month. probably quieting down after that that fight. Although, so it looks like it was at 1.4 and then spiked up to over 2 for 2 months, and then now it's fallen back down to 1.4. I know that there was a whole thing with like, there has been a lot of shaking up going on in Pochfin, and so I think that there was a pretty big time of aggression during the summer, and after that Fortizar died, it's kind of quieted down a little bit. That's my guess. Asteroid ore mined over time. So what we're seeing here, what I see here is, so it's going up, right? But the blue line and the orange line are staying the same. So, and the wormhole line is pretty much staying the same too. So a lot of this, we've seen in previous months, a lot of gains that were done by HiSec, right? Almost sometimes to the extent of, to the detriment of Null. Like you can see that Null was actually pretty terrible when it was prior to Uprising, but we are seeing it pick back up again. And so, yeah, I think that GM Trails might be right. This might be rebuilding dread fleets or capital fleets, but it also could be T2 dreads. This could be the introduction of siege dreads, which took a little, or not siege, Lancer dreads, which are extremely expensive, therefore have a disproportionate effect on the market for each one sold or built. And they came out with Viridian, and it took about a month to a month and a half for people to really start being able to produce these things. So that could very well be a big explanation for some of these upticks. Asteroid ore by region. We see that Delve is at above 4 billion. Oh, wait, no, shoot, that was last month. My bad. So this month for the asteroid ore by volume, we actually see that it has gone down a little bit more, but it doesn't look like nullsec left it. It looks like it was just a little bit of a dip in HiSec, not even below the standard line. So that's fine. Compared to last month. Delve has increased even more, so it's at 4.5 billion now. Over 4 billion there. Yeah, under 4 billion there. So in May, they were getting just over 3 billion. But ever since then, they've been at over 4 billion. So that right there is probably a fair chunk of that increase in nullsec mining. The goons have gotten back to being industrious little bees. Anything else that we can see from here? The Forge, Lone Trek Metropolis. Lone Trek Metropolis, the Forge. Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, it's all kind of the same stuff. We used to see a lot more switching around in the top. We see Fraternity being very productive, but now the goons have clearly just like locked in their lead again. Gas mined over time. Pretty steady growth. It looks like it was in low sec, especially as like, so June, as Viridian came out, we see more low secking mining stuff. That's a very good opportunity. But now we're seeing an increase in wormhole gas mining. Again, I wonder how much this has to do with Lancer dreads, because I think capitals also require wormhole gas now. I don't know. Gas mined by region, we have Aridia, Lone Trek the Forge. We used to have Aridia, Lone Trek Curse, Placid. Oh, yeah, we got the wormhole gas mining buff with cloud size increase. That's what it is. So now it's easier to get more when you go out. Or per site that you find, I suppose. Yeah, but I think that maybe people weren't necessarily taking it. I think that people are now taking more advantage of this thing. I am personally, anecdotally, seeing more and more people that are getting into things like low-sec mining, wormhole mining as their way of like being a little bit more risky, but bringing in a lot more profit. Ice mined over time, very steady. I mean, ice is a pretty steady thing. If anything, it's a little bit down in low sec or in high sec. God, how is the low sec ice mined that low? Excuse me. When I think of ice, I think of low sec, and yet it's like basically none of it. It's a rounding error. That's wild. Ice volume by region. We see the Forge. But Metropolis has dropped down a little bit. The Forge is at 3.5. Oh yeah, no, the Forge has just gone up. I wonder if that's indicated. So we don't have a change in the peak concurrent users, but we do have this uptick in the Forge in a lot of different small ways, which implies to me it could very well be that. So like peak concurrent user basically is like that midpoint between EU and US time zones. Like right before there's like a lull, but right before that, around like noonish 2 p.m. Most US times, it's still like evening EU time, and so that's like the perfect storm for when we get the peak concurrent user, right? Like if we look at the daily thing, right? Like there's the peak and then there's the trough, and the problem is that it's only recording the peak. So what I've noticed before is that this can cover up the fact that the rest of the day, including basically the entire US time zone, can fluctuate and not be reflected in the PCU. So what I'm seeing here, what I'm guessing here, is that we're seeing actually an increase in new player activity, which we're seeing a pretty steady account creation. Because I'm thinking that like a lot of newer players end up going to Jita and being in the Forge area. I'd like to think that most people eventually figure out to leave the Forge area. If you haven't figured out to leave the... Now, if you're, like, honestly, if you're having any problems with, like, gankers or other ne'er-do-wells and you are in Caldari space and you're worried about getting your ships suicide ganked or whatever, get out of Caldari space. Anywho, Moon Ore, volume mined over time. This actually seems super steady. So it looks like the vast majority of this uptick in mining, and you can even see it here too, across the board, the vast majority of these upticks is nullsec. See that? The red line, see it? So these are proportional, right? So with everything else dipping down, it's because nullsec is taking a bigger piece of the pie. It's not Caldari hate. It's just a simple matter of like social understanding. There are the most people are in Jita and around Jita, which means people that want to prey on other people are going to find that to be the best place to do it, which means you're going to have the most people that are doing that around there. So just like in real life, if you don't want to be messed with by other people, you got to go way off into the boonies. There are definitely other places that are not much better than the Forge, but it's a good start. Do I think it's really new players or just alts being made? Actually, I think that there are a lot of new players coming in, like a lot of new players. The rookie chat is very big, and also returning players. You know, by far my most successful video of all time now is my returning to Eve watch this first video. And we haven't recruited a person into the Convocation of Empyreans pretty much in the last like 5 months that didn't involve, oh yeah, I saw this video, you know, I played a little long time ago, but now I want to check it out, and I saw this returning to Eve video, and now I want to join, right? Like, it is there, the amount of people that are coming back and checking things out. Maybe they tried it for like a week before. When I say returning, I don't mean like somebody who was big in 2015. I'm talking about somebody who tried it back in like 2010 for like a couple of weeks, never really got into it, got burned out, or, you know, got washed up, but now, because of the stuff that's going on, are kind of interested in it. And I don't think that this is very surprising, because a lot of the stuff that they've been focusing on is stuff that's interesting for newer players. And so newer players are coming in and actually finding content to do. See, there you go, Nick. Yeah, you gotta love the big city life if you want to live in the Forge. All right. But yeah, going back to the moon ore, I don't see a big uptick in moon ore mine during time, which is weird, because that means that all they're doing is mining raw resources. Was there something that happened to ore with Viridian? Can anybody remember? Was there a change to the asteroid ore in Nullsec with Viridian? Isogen. Oh, AO. Yeah, but that's by volume. You think that AO belts already existed? They just tripled the isogen. I don't see that being the big difference. I don't know how much of this is just like the industrial machines churning back up and how much of it is some sort of change, but I'll have to talk to some people to find out. No. Moon ore volume by region. Veil of the Silent is the #1 moon ore volume by region. Isn't that's fraternity, right? So last month it was Domain, Delve, Veil. Tripling amount of isogen in the belt does make mining those belts more valuable. Yeah, but it's by volume. It's M3. So it doesn't matter if the ore is more valuable. Except for the fact that if it's more valuable, more people mine it. That's true. Yes, moon ore is not decreasing. Correct. That's true. There's just more people mining, right? Because there's not a dip. You're not compensating for asteroid ore by not mining moon ore. But this is something I find very interesting. So Veil of the Silent was at just over 3 billion, with Delve at 4.5 last month. And now Veil of the Silent is 4.5 and Delve is under 4. So, hey, sorry in advance. 07 to you. Hey, thank you so much for holding down the fort on putting out amazing Eve content over the summer. If you guys haven't checked it out, sorry in advance. Put out a normal show called The Beaver Show. They do it in both English and French for the French Canadian viewers and all that stuff. They are super awesome people. Go check them out. Absolutely. I want to do more stuff with them. Any rate, I do find this interesting that Veil of the Silent went up by about 1 billion, and Delve went down by about 500 million in Moon Ore. Which, let's be honest. Hold on, let's just look real quick. Yeah, Delve's at over 4 billion there, and then at just over 3 billion there. So we're seeing this like up down when it comes to their moons, which leads me to suspect this has more to do with their moon rotation than a waxing and waning interest in moon mining. I suspect that this has something to do with how their scheduling corresponds with how the MARs are processed, more than an actual change in their moon mining operation every single month within the Imperium. Blue loot from Wormhole is a commodity purchased by NPCs only, or is it used in industry? Blue loot is only used as a commodity. in general, most of the time, if we refer to something as a colored loot, it is a commodity to be sold. Some of the time, there are secondary uses. Like, for instance, red loot from Triglavians can be used to buy some of the stuff in the DLP store, and some of the other there are some other tokens. But usually when we say something is a colored loot, we mean that it's just a token to be sold. All right. Gas volume mined over time. We see this giant drop-off in May in nullsec, and it hasn't fully recovered. Actually, we see a drop-off across the board in gas mined over time. Oh, that's way back. Hold on. That's the beginning of the summer. Let's look at it now. Derp, we already did gas mined. Ha, ha, ha. I thought, it's like, we talked about that. All right. We did this one. Okay. Imports and exports by region. The number one last month was Peregrine Falls, with Lone Trek being 7th. This month, it's Lone Trek is number 1. Now, this means number 1 for exports. Imports means assets that are being brought into that region. Exports are assets being brought out of that region. So Lone Trek having a huge export could be as simple as a group moving their stuff, right? But you get that idea. What you would honestly look for is like a corresponding big spike. Like, probably not the Citadel, because the Citadel always has a lot of stuff. But if we looked around, we could probably find an abnormal spike inward. Maybe. Essence? I don't know. Hard to say. But let's see. As far as the export goes, we have the Forge, which is pretty normal, right? Yeah, the Forge is usually the largest exporter. Oh, Peregrine Falls was that month. At least a little bit longer, like another, probably a couple, 2-3 hours, maybe. At least 2. Sinks and faucets. This is where things get interesting. Okay, so the commodity market. Total commodities is 42 trillion. Last month, it was 42 trillion. The month before, it was 56 trillion. So I'll give you a hint. I'm pretty sure the Shadow War was still going on in June. Right? Like, there were events going on in June. And I don't know if you noticed, but we haven't really had any events really this month or this year, which I would like to talk about, not during the MER section, but that would explain that. We'll look at the commodity over time chart in a minute, but let's see. Bounties is 33 billion versus 32, so bounties are on the uptick. Yep. And nope, that's not the right one. Yep. So it's up by, about a trillion, half a trillion to a trillion. So that means more people ratting. ESS Autobank payout 17, and it was 16. So we're seeing a corresponding bonus bump in both bounties and ESS. You know what that tells me? This is an increase in ratting, right? So this is, and we saw earlier in the top thing, like, most of the economic changes over the last month or two seems to be in nullsec, so this tracks. Let's see. I like to keep track of project discovery. Make sure. Where is it? Holy crap, it fell down. 1 trillion out of Project Discovery? Wait. Less than a trillion? $1 trillion? Is that normal? Am I just forgetting things? I thought it was like an unusually high amount. Maybe that's still considered an unusually high amount. I thought it was higher up on the list. Either way. Triglavian invasions. 15 trillion. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 13 trillion. 13.7 to 15. So that's also an increase in the Triglavian invasion payouts are usually the people farming Pochvin, because you have to do pro eating calm against Triglavian sites to get that. No, wait, no. If you do stuff for the Triglavians, you also get a payout. So, yeah, that's people running sites in the Triglavian invasions, but probably Pochvin-y stuff, maybe? I don't know. Sancha incursions, on the other hand, went from 12 to 11. But it's also like the 12, it fluctuates between 11 and 12. Let's see. Do we have... What I want to see is, do we have do we know what the payout for home fronts is called? Who pays out home fronts? Does anybody know off the top of their head? I could look it up. I'm not seeing it, though. Unless that's these House of Records, Ministry of Internal Order stuff. That actually might be it. Is that what that is? Because I don't see... None of that's here. Hold on, let me go look. Wormhole combat encounters with Pochvin wormholes? Yeah, I just don't see that being like the thing that's being farmed more than before, you know? What? Why do I just have a bunch of bounty? Oh, is that just... Oh, right. Never mind. This is me running around and killing a bunch of stuff. Shoot. Is it a corporate reward payment? Yep, there they are. Federal Intelligence Office. Because I'm doing the Gallente ones. So yeah, if you want to keep track of how much Homefronts is making, you have to add up all of these numbers. So 1, 2, it's 3. So we can see, actually, we can also see which Homefronts are most popular. This is actually really interesting. So the Ministry of Internal Order is Amar. House of Records is Kaldari. Federal Intelligence Office is Mimitar, or Gallente, and Republic Security Services is Mimitar. So that's the only one that gets paid out less than FOBs. So that means if you combine them all, we have 1.4 plus 1.9 is 2.3 plus 4.1 is 6.4 trillion, which puts it at about half the amount of money that incursions are putting out right now in all of Homefronts. That's pretty good. I mean, let's see what it was at before. Do we see a big uptick? No, actually, I see it more now than it was before, which is honestly quite good because if you think about it, in these earlier numbers, these were when people were able to, like, this was the month that people were supposedly cheesing the site, and yet now that the sites are done well, people are actually still making as much, if not more, money than before. So the thing is about the way that people cheesed the Homefront sites is that it didn't actually make it much more efficient than just doing it. Turns out that just having a group of people and doing it together makes everybody a bunch of money real fast. But because of the nature of it, it's very difficult to increase the amount of money that it gives you beyond that good amount, right? Because you have to travel between the systems. It doesn't matter if you can knock out the site in 5 minutes or 7 minutes if it takes you like 6 minutes to find the next site, right? Because at that point, you now have a site that's, let's say it takes you 15 minutes between from payout to payout. That's actually pretty not great, but that means that you're getting 4 sites done in an hour. But if you speed that site up by a full minute by cheesing it, so you kill the tower in 1 pass instead of 2 or whatever it is, you can go that extra mile, but what do you really get out of that, right? Like instead of 15 minutes a site, it's now 14 minutes a payout. So you still get basically the same amount. Since the home fronts exist, I feel so bad about doing anything else in high sec. I like doing home fronts, but I also like doing I still like doing missions. And honestly, especially with all this Epiphany stuff and everything building up, I have been running around. I kind of want to show you guys at some point. Probably not today because I'm out of position, but just grabbing a Stormbringer and running around and doing high sec anomalies to get escalations has been both fun and lucrative. All right. Well, that's cool. Commodities over time. So you can see when the events ended, especially the one that drops personal overseers effects. But this miscellaneous, I think, is this big spike of miscellaneous. See this? This is the end of the Shadow War, right? This is everybody turning in their doodads and tokens and whatnot and making it happen. Wasn't there also another event during that time too? It was chaotic. Be careful. Oh yeah. That's true. No. You gotta be very, very careful. If there's somebody else in grid with me, I will like manually shoot every single shot to make sure that they don't go suspect in between it. I'll like shoot and then like wait a few seconds and be like, you gonna? Plot. Huh? So sorry if this sounds like a dumb question. Is Eve a good game if you just want to fly around and go look for exploration a la No Man's Sky? Thanks again for the noobish question. Sure. There's all kinds of stuff to go look at and try out and all that stuff. And if that's all you ever do, well, I mean, that's your choice. There's a bunch of other stuff for you to do in game. You're going to have a bunch, you're still going to have to learn how to like maneuver and keep yourself safe, especially if you're going to go check out stuff in some of the more dangerous areas. But there's an entire alliance known as Signal Cartel who are, they get mad at me when I say it this way, but they're not pacifists, but they are non-aggressive. They are not allowed to be the first to attack. They're allowed to defend themselves. But yeah, they're explorers. They're explorers and adventurers, and they have a program where they rescue people out of wormholes and stuff. Like that is absolutely a gameplay style. The last Thunderchild that did PvE in Highsec died to my burger. Oh no. Oh no. Well, now you're a bad person, Raiden. For those of you who don't know, so the reason, what we're talking about here is that the Stormbringer is one of the ships that can hit multiple ships at the same time using chain lightning, right? And the lightning honors your security status, right? Or your security settings. So if you have your security set to green and there's another dude on field with you, like here's a good example. If I launch my drones, which I don't have on a Stormbringer, if I launch my mobile tractor unit, right, in my Stormbringer, and then I start shooting things, the lightning can chain and damage my own mobile tractor unit because it's mine, right? You can shoot your own stuff, no problem, with safety green. However, if a friend is there, the lightning will not chain onto them because that would be a criminal flag, and I have my safeties to green. It also won't chain if they drop an MTU. It won't chain to it because that would give you a suspect flag, and your safety won't allow that. So you should be pretty safe, right? Like if you're in a normal ship and you're in these sites and somebody else is in the site, there's pretty much nothing that they can do to force you to be able to make it so that they can attack you. You have to take the suspect bait or whatever. But here's the problem. A suspect is a valid target for someone, even if their safety status is green. So as soon as they go suspect, your lightning can chain onto them, even if your safety is green. And as soon as it does, it initiates a 5-minute limited engagement timer with that person, and then they kill you. So, all that aside, commodities seem pretty even. I do find it interesting that the bounty encrypted bonds see this big spike. Well, I guess there has been, I mean, it's not that big of a spike. It just kind of started picking up again after being low, I suppose is a better way of putting it. Not a few dudes that way. There are two types of players. People warning him and people like, oh yeah, I did that last week. All right. Yeah, not much to say about the commodities because we haven't had very many events. Iskin faucets over time. Again, so this is what I find really interesting. We're seeing a big increase in production, destruction, and mining, but we aren't seeing nearly as big of an increase in any of the money-making mechanisms of the game. Now, obviously, ore mined won't show up on this list. So people aren't making liquid ISK. They aren't even selling and trading more, as it would seem. It really is people are gathering raw material and turning it into stuff. And yet, even though that's true, even though we have, pretty steady ISK generation, we do see a continued climb in growing wealth, much more on the character level than on the corporate level. HiSec is so insecure. I felt HiSec has the most number of rules that you need to understand in order to make it. And then the velocity of ISK, it has gone down. It's stabilized, and it hasn't gone back up after the initial tick. But again, velocity of ISK is based on trade, and we see that there isn't actually that much additional trade, but there's all these other indications of increased production and manufacturing. So, I wonder how much, the manufacturing, I wonder how much the taxes changes and fee changes on player structures affected people's desire to do industry. Maybe that's the reason why people kicked off a lot more industry recently. We do see a big spike of transaction tests. So there is some people buying and selling, but the broker fee went down, which is kind of weird. All right. Mineral prices are still very high. Everything else is up. mineral prices are still almost as high as they were at the height of scarcity, which is wild, by the way. But it is kind of evening out at the top level. Consumer price index, we're looking for anything that stands out. Looks pretty normal. Mineral price index. So it looks like the majority of the value change is, so hold on. The top one is low-end minerals. The bottom one is high-end minerals. So, okay, here we go. Basically, especially during scarcity and whatnot, what we actually saw was this big uptick in the value of low-sec commodity, or sorry, low-end minerals, titanium and stuff. And you see, more importantly, these high-end minerals. Look at all of these hits in its value that it's taken recently without any of these bigger, I mean, like some blue lines. But then in 2020, it starts to get bigger. But then look at 2022. So this is scarcity and post-scarcity. And Moongoo really took a big hit while low-end minerals have gone up. And now they're starting to rebalance. So low-sec minerals are starting to get big again as high-sec minerals and low-end minerals start to go back down. The bottleneck is shifting again. And then primary producers, we see a big fall on raw moon materials, probably because we see an uptick in the amount of, no, we didn't see an uptick in the amount of moon mined. We're just seeing a drop in its value. Yeah, I don't know. What is this? So this has gone up a little bit over the last few months. Salvage materials. So people getting rigs and other such bits. But it's pretty flat. A lot of these are pretty flat. Which one is this? Salvaged materials. Wait, oh yeah, we just did that one. ESS figures by region. Hey, this is a good one, probably. So we have... Oh, this is just thefts. Boo. So we have 1 trillion ISK stolen from banks in Delve. Sell orders are stuck in the market, being undercut nonstop. Buy orders are not being consumed, and buy orders are piling up. For which? Oh, for which? For the low end? Well, again, so this is a good indicator. As we're starting to see more and more newer players replacing some of the experienced multi-boxing power players, we see a lot of people mining lower end minerals. I'm probably willing to sell it for less, let's be frank. True souls. Hey, what's up, Malak? Yeah, Malak and I have definitely spent a few hours in Baldur's Gate. Let's see. Let's look at this. I want to look at... Yeah, the bank thefts are way up in Delve. But again, the ratting is also up in Delve. The payouts are also up in Delve. And Fountain is... Woof, Fountain is down by... or up by double. And I honestly don't pay attention to main banks because that's such a weird world. Or reserve banks. Yeah, I don't pay attention to reserve banks. Yeah, look at all that. That's all goons robbery. And I suspect, given the fact that these are main bank heists, that these are not goons robbing themselves. Yeah, you just take a filament, go to goons space, and rob a ESS. I just joined Karma Fleet a week ago, or 3 weeks ago. I swear, it has nothing. This has nothing to do with it. Oh, we now have a correspondence. Okay, fair enough. And then largest reserve bank thefts, whatever, mostly in goon space. That could very well be. I know they have. Oh yeah, look at that! Holy shit! I'm sorry. So I know, like, the reserve bank has always been kind of like a weird thing, and I'm not sure what CCP's total goals were for the largest for the reserve bank stuff, but the dark ones here represent people milking it, i.e., them using a key to unlock their own area's gates or reserve banks in order to pull the money out. Whereas the brighter ones are the bank robberies. Yeah, I'll explain that in a second. So what happens is when people rat in nullsec, a certain amount of it, a certain percentage of it, goes into the main bank. And then after every 3 hours, the main bank pays it out. So if you get to the end of the 3 hours, you get the full amount. That's all you can possibly get for ratting. Okay. However, there is an additional amount of ISK that is generated as you do this that is you never see, and it goes into the reserve bank. So the reserve bank just slowly builds up over time, right? It never pays out to anybody. The only way to get it is that there are special keys in lowsec. There are these particular lowsec sites. So it's one of the more dangerous areas of space, least secure areas of space. And it takes marauders and black ops and stuff to run these sites in order to get these reserve bank keys. And then you can use the key in the correct quadrant of space that key belongs to. So what ended up happening is we have a lot of people, or we have not a lot of people, we have some people that go out and farm these keys, and then they sell them to the null block who owns that area of space. And then they go and they use the key to pull the money out of the reserve bank, right? Because they know how much they're going to pull out. So they know like what their margins are going to be if they pay, a certain amount to the person who farms the key. So that's why we see the vast majority of reserve bank thefts are milking. Also, when you do a reserve bank theft, it notifies the entire region. So robbing a reserve bank is extraordinarily risky. But milking a reserve bank, I mean, it's your territory. Three TCs. Yeah, I think they can. Strategic cruisers can do it. Maybe. At least some of them. Wormhole stuff. Did we look at blue loot? Where was blue loot? Blue loot is a little bit down, but wormhole gas mining is up. I wonder if that's because people are not running the sites as much and instead are mining the gas more. Having to build dreads would explain why you would do more ore mining than moon mining. I mean, I know that even the Tech 2 dreads require Tech 2 parts, but they still also require a ton of minerals. And also you need just Tech 1 dreads and Navy dreads, which Navy dreads does take gas. I know that. Well, they all take some gas. Wormhole net trade summary. See what that looks like last year or last month, just for comparison. Yeah, C5s are pretty. I mean, C5s are by far the most lucrative. That's the one that people run for money. So we see boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So not too much is changing in wormhole space, it looks like. Only reliable way I've seen is 2 Hackers tunes and 1 Vargar triple box. That's a whole other world. I have not delved too much into that yet. Largest battle in the Caldari state versus Gallente faction warfare. That Hadley's? Is Hadley's? No, because it's a Caldari controlled system. I don't know. I know that the Warzone has been very active. Largest battle by solar system. You can see the conflict in the north. And that's it. That's the MER. So it looks like things are going pretty good. We made it through the summer. And I think that the biggest thing is that, like, the fact that there was no summer slump is a pretty big thing, honestly. Like, I know that that sounds like cope or whatever, but if you look at it like May, so look at May and September last year, right? So last year, the May to September line goes strictly down. This year, the May to September line goes up. That's, I mean, I don't know if that means that before that it was lower, and so it only had up to go, maybe. You set your standards on the rock bottom, then you can only go up, right? But yeah, that's about all for the MER for today. Thank you guys. If you're watching this live, keep on hanging out. But if you are watching this as a pre-recorded thing, edited, all that stuff, I want to say thank you for checking this out. Like it, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. And until next time, I'll see you in space. Okay. Woo. What do I think the cause is? Of which? Of which? I've talked a lot about what I think about the causes are of a lot of things. No, we're not stopping. We're not done. That's why I said, if you're live, you're not done. That's just where I'm going to cut that as a segment, probably. Level as opposed to drop. I think that home fronts were really interesting, and I think that there's several pretty big indicators. By the way, Mike Azariah is here, ladies and gentlemen. I mentioned him earlier. He is running for the CSM, probably one of the best advocates for noobs. And let's be frank, okay? I'm going to be real with you, okay? Look, it is true that the null blocks basically just get the majority of the seats. They're going to get 6 or 7 of the 10 seats, probably, right? So we're mostly contending for those last few seats. So it's all fine and good for you. There's lots of really promising candidates and all that stuff. But the people like Dutch Gunner, Torvald, well, I guess Torvald's returning, but yeah, or actually Mike Azariah too. Mike Azariah, these non-block candidates who have also name recognition and force behind them. Remember, I said if they don't get enough votes, they get eliminated before they can even get counted to get across the line, right? Before more votes trickle in. So Mike Azariah is one of those guys that you definitely want to consider. Like, if you're like, oh man, I want, there's plenty of people that are like, I'm the high set candidate. Mike Azariah is the high set candidate that you can actually get elected. Hey, Doran 07, thank you for that membership and support. CSM 16, I was not elected. I was just the last man standing. That's not true. That's not true. There was like 40 candidates. Or like 30. Anyhow. Hey, awesome. 07, good to see you. You have my vote already? Excellent. I will, Doran. All right. Thank you, Samuel. Which is why it's a bad idea to waste your vote on an all-back candidate. Well, not particularly, because I mean, like, the other thing to think about is that a lot of the, like, let's take Angry Mustache, for example. Angry Mustache is going to get voted in, right? Like, he's high. I'm pretty sure he's high enough on the Imperium ballot. Without even checking the Imperium ballot, I'm going to just guess that Angry Mustache is high enough on the Imperium ballot that he's going to get elected. But that also means that, like, you could give him a #1 or if you gave him a high spot, when he gets elected, your vote will cascade down to your number 2. They actually, so what they do is it doesn't, okay. So the way it works is this. Let's say 10,000 people vote for Angry Mustache. And Angry Mustache needs 9,000 votes to cross the threshold. That leaves him with 1,000 votes that he did not need to cross the threshold, right? So what they do with that 1,000 votes is they take the 10,000 votes that voted for Angry Mustache, and they look to see who all of those people's number 2 spots. Because a lot of people will vote the same way, right? So if 30% of all of the people that vote for Angry Mustache have Mike Azariah as their number 2 spot, then that 1,000 of those 1,000 votes, 300 of those votes will be transferred to Mike Azariah, with the rest of the votes distributed based on percentages of all the rest. So, your vote still gets directed. Oh, on the Imperium ballot, I got you, Mike. Angry's number 2, Kaz is number 1. Well, there you go. Yeah, the CGB Gray explanation on a single transferable vote is very, very good. That's true. I love it. Hey, Lee Harvey Oswald. That's Drake, right? I always mess this up. I think I have 2 people in my orbit name that uses the name Flea, and I'm always trying to... Yeah, okay. Drake is another candidate for CSM. He's one that we talked about earlier. Like, honestly, is there another Pochvin candidate besides Drake? I don't know. They certainly don't know as much about Pochvin than Drake does. Oh, last time it was Kaz then Angry. This time it's Angry then Kaz. The Ibis, yeah, so the Ibis wasn't as vocal this time. Like, I didn't see very much about it at all. But Ibis is basically an independent voting slate that you can do. Is it just me, or is that a weird way to count a ballot? Which one? The single transferable vote? It's the most fair way to get the best representative elections, results that we have discovered as humans. Also available is Pochvin and the 3 Triglavian peoples running for CSM2. Look, do me all a favor. Get these 3 dudes elected. I don't care how. I don't care what order you do it in. Drake, Mike, and the other guy. My brain just fell out. Dutch, Jesus. Thank you, Dutch. My brain fell. So I was looking. The problem is that in my chat, like, you hadn't talked in a while. So I looked over there to figure out who. And then when you weren't on the list, all I saw was that you weren't there. And then I couldn't get my hands on who it was. I knew that there was a 3rd. Oh, how embarrassing. Can we hack other people's implants to make them vote with us? No. But you can log in with each of your Omega accounts and vote. You're stealing that phrase? Yeah. Yeah, Melisson Tarot is actually a really good Pochvin candidate too. That being said, I think so. I don't know. I personally think that Drake would make a good CSM candidate, simply because remember how the way I put it is like, who do you want in the room when they're talking about these things? And the point is that Drake is going to have a perspective and knowledge that probably nobody else in the room has, hands down. Whether or not you agree with him, he has knowledge of mechanics that basically nobody else has. He has experiences that basically nobody else has, CCP or otherwise. I'm not saying that people should like always listen to Drake. Lord, no. He's a dangerous fella. But I wouldn't mind having his input when it comes to Pochvin decision. He also has an Officer Bit Panther, so can't argue with that. Yeah, if you ever see his Panther in Pochvin, my suggestion is to run fast, because it's going to be faster than you. Oh my god, I'm catching it live. Yeah, Grima. Yeah, I'm back. It was a long summer, but my son's school started yesterday, which was a Wednesday. So this was my first day back. All right. I'm not breaking NDA to say it was fun watching null rets argue on opposite sides of an issue. There was argument between null block players. That I think that is secret information, Mike. You should not be discussing such things. Kashal Aderon works with newbies a lot. Look, and I'm sure that they're a great candidate. I'm sure that they're a great candidate. Mike is the one that's going to be able to get elected of the two, probably. That's just look. That's my opinion. I didn't really pay that good of attention to the CSM election this year. Opinion. All right, next. The program, the FanFest 2023 program is revealed. So, guys, this is it, guys. This is it. The 22nd of September. This month, 15 days from now, FanFest 2023, 20-year anniversary of EVE Online, FanFest. This is going to be wild, okay? So this is all further speculation that we're going to talk about for the rest of this stream, and basically for the next 2 weeks, are going to be focused on this event. Every year, FanFest is when they reveal, like, what they're doing. They'll show off their next expansion. They show off their timeline. And in fact, hold on, actually, now I want to go back. Let's do CCP no favors. Let's go. I'm going to go back in time. It's going to take me a few seconds. Stick with me. We're going to go look at the news archive. I want to go look back at the last time that they showed off. Does anybody know the last time that they showed off the their progress report? Let's see. You're going to it for the first time? Oh my god. I envy you. Is it here? I thought they, well, whatever. Nope. Where's Viridian Beyond? I thought they'd done it once prior to that, but am I going crazy? Oh my god, hold on. Here we go. Game Director's Letter, Viridian and Beyond. Why not? Well, you know. It's all relative, right? So this is their timeline. I wanted to pull up the one from FanFest last year, but I just realized now, like they had like what's going to happen in the next year. And, you know, I've seen some people complaining about like what CCP's done or whatever, but like, honestly, they have delivered a lot of the stuff that they said that they were going to in the next year. And so I'm only excited about this. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, like we got these things and we look forward to these things. It looks like they're kind of chugging along, which is pretty cool. So let's look at the program because I'll be honest, I haven't actually looked at this yet, but I wanted to go completely cold. Oh my god, where's my thing? So let's see what we can suss out. This is where I'm going to give some predictions. Yeah, I got my collector's box pre-ordered. Thank you guys so much for helping contribute to that. That was awesome. I look forward to it. Okay. So we have the welcome ceremony, and then we have 20 years of Capsuleer data. Whoa. So this is, hold on. So this is actually really interesting. So in the same way, this is so weird. This is so weird. Okay. Like, normally FanFest is for the spring expansion, but obviously it's going to be more related to the winter expansion this time. What I find weird about this is that the keynote is normally directly after the welcome ceremony. And that's important because, like, typically when it comes to any of these kinds of cons, when it comes to game producers, right? Like, you know, FanFest, BlizzCon, whatever, they want to have their keynote at the very, very beginning because that's when they reveal the big things that they then talk about for the next 2 days. But here we see that the keynote's actually going to be at the end of the first day. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess why this happened. Okay? Last year's FanFest presentation was widely panned by the player base, right? Now, day 2 recovered because they went into more details of some of the stuff. And CCP Aurora was the only saving grace, by most people's account, of the keynote last year. And the reason why was because they hadn't had a FanFest for 3 years. And the purpose of the keynote is to serve 2 functions. One is to kind of recap everything that's been happening, do a victory lap, as it were, over the last year. And then, you know, showcase the highlights of the things that they're going to reveal as part of this year, right? That's what it's for. The problem is that they had 3 years of stuff to go over. So while all of the player base had been starving for content for 3 years, they all come to the Eve keynote going like, this better be good. I better show up. And they say they're bringing the pleasure hubs back or something. I don't know, right? Like, but what we got was very, very little in terms of what was coming, because they had so much of what they've been through to cover, right? They had 3 years instead of 1 year to cover. So their priorities were shifted, and it ended up everybody went to the first day expecting it to be about new stuff. And when it was about the past stuff, you know, catching people up and behind the scenes stuff, people were very unhappy with that, even though they were much more happy with the stuff that they were shown day 2. So my guess is that this is designed to attempt to preempt that. So if you see, day 1 is focused largely off of things that are non-spoilery, right? Things about the past, things about real science, and other things like that, right? So we have the 20 years of Capsuleer data, we have the James Webb Telescope stuff, we have what is Project Discovery, an update on Project Discovery, predicting behaviors in conflict, game theory, and EVE Online. So like a player, I think that's a player presentation. Then the keynote. So there's a day of like celebrating EVE as it is without the distraction of the new stuff. Then there's the keynote. And then they let everybody go. And then the next day, we talk about that. You know, the building blocks of New Eden, we'll talk about like the economy or the ecology and all that stuff, and probably will relate back to the stuff revealed in the keynotes. The Art of Eve will probably show off not only some of the art stuff that they've been doing, like the Jovian Tower, the Jovian Stargates, and other like effects that they've been working on, but some of the newer stuff that they've been working on. Redacted is obviously going to clearly tie directly into the keynote, and there's a presentation by Andrew Groen and Izuki, and then the closing ceremonies. So it looks like Friday is going to be mostly focused on, you know, FanFest as a celebration of Eve, where Saturday is FanFest as a preview of what's to come, right? And it's a bold move. We'll have to see how it works out. Either way, I will be either streaming it or giving reaction videos or whatever. So the other thing that's worth noting is that all of these times are probably in, yeah, these are GMT. So if you look at these are going to be extremely early in the morning UST. Or yeah. So generally speaking, what I did last year was just record myself watching it as a way of like making a reaction video, as opposed to doing it live. But then I did a lot. Well, then I did a live like breakdown where we walked through it. So we'll probably do something like that again. It's also probably, that might be the other reason why they're putting the keynote at the end, because like last year, the keynote was at 5 a.m., which isn't not great, you know, as far as my sleep schedule goes. Yeah. All right. So really excited for FanFest, but let's talk about what I think FanFest is going to be. But before we do that, I'm going to segue into something that might not seem to be related at first. And I'm going to do it with an ad, both in-game or in-stream and out. Hold on. Okay. So it is Caldari Union Day. Each of the empires have a holiday that represents their birthday, effectively. Now, over the last few years, they've been building up this kind of calendar of events throughout the year. In fact, I even made, finally, like, it's funny. Back in 2016 or whatever, when they first started doing these kinds of events, they were really, really focused on it not being seen as just like a normal holiday calendar, right? Now, eventually they kind of gave up on that. And this idea of like regular holiday events became a thing, right? We have, you know, the Hunt, which is the Easter event. We have Guardians Gala, which is the Valentine's Day event. We have Crimson Harvest, which is the Halloween event. That's all fine. But as soon as we all got used to this whole thing, and we got a brand new event, we have an event for each of the empires. It was great. We figured that, you know, there's going to be an event like every month this year because they built them all up. And for some reason, they've basically canceled all events this year so far. I want to talk about that. Now, there are people complaining about this because yet another holiday that instead of being able to go out and do sites for the Caldari Union Day, the only thing you can do is give CCP money for skins. And that's super lame. And it is. It's super lame. I really wish that we had a full event. And it leads me to ask a question. The event is done. Caldari Union Day is... It doesn't have to be attached to the lore. And the sites are already in the game. They literally only had to turn it on. And it would have just done it. Like, they literally could have just let it happen. And Caldari Union Day would have happened exactly the same way as it was before. Speaking of which, did Liberation Day already happen? Wait, did Liberation Day happen? Liberation Day already happened. Did we already talk about this and I just forget? So what's weird is that, like, during Liberation Day, the actual event is a challenge where you side with one of the tribes, and the tribe that gets the most points wins, and they rename, or they put one of the structures as being belonging to the winning tribe for the next year. But I think that they just didn't do it this year. And so the Thucker just won by default, apparently. Yeah, I'm working on that Dutch. But like, but my point is that even if it was a focus, like you're focusing on the empires, right? Of anything, it would make sense that the Empire Day events would still happen. They are the most like designed to just happen every year and be a celebration and not be a big thing. Why not? Okay. Ready for the tinfoil? Ready for my cope? Ready for my prediction? Here's the thing. Why do they cancel all of the events, including the ones that were perfectly easy to just let happen, while at the same time promising at the beginning of the year that we will get the Crimson Harvest in Winter Nexus event? Well, first of all, that indicates that they knew from the very, very beginning that they were going to basically not do any events until Crimson Harvest besides the Arc campaigns. And that's fair. But why? And in one of these discussions, in one of these presentations, I can't even remember which, they kind of talk about it a little bit. And they mention that the Crimson Harvest is going to be the first in their new, in the returning mission system. So my positive prediction, my anti-cynical attitude, is the reason why we're not seeing events is because we're getting a significant change to how events work. Some sort of upgrade or change to the event system that makes it so that the previous events and in fact the entire event distribution mechanic must be reworked, right? So they knew at the beginning of the year that this is the year to implement this, but they have until October to finish it. Now, Crimson Harvest always seems to be that the first. It was the first event ever. When they created the new mission systems, it was the first one to get the new mission system treatment. So it makes sense for them to use it for the next new iteration. So this is what I suspect. I suspect that the reason why we're not getting events this year is because the mission system itself is basically in the shop at the moment, getting worked on. And that's why we see things like the ARC campaigns, which have their own distribution mechanisms, and things like opportunities. The opportunities window, which is probably a herald of things to come when it comes to what events could do. We're getting to the deathless. So that's why I think that we haven't had events this year. Now, is that optimism? Absolutely. But I'll tell you this. In 15 days, CCP needs to either validate what I just said or face the wrath. Because if they don't have a good reason and they just didn't because they wanted faction warfare or whatever, and that's why they didn't do Caldara Union Day and Liberation Day, that is insane. And I would chalk that up as a huge mistake. Not death, but definitely something that they should learn to never do again. Because the thing is that they've been bringing all these newer people in to the game, and they brought them in with these really cool events like the Doctor Who event and even Shadow War and some of the other stuff and the winter event. These people experience, they came in with Uprising, and then they had the winter event, and that was great. And like, these guys are starving. My dudes are like people lost in the desert, parched, wanting simple one event, please. And the problem is that like the Epiphany thing was great, but it was great for a very small set of people, and it didn't provide like an actionable thing for everybody to do to make some money. So yeah, we need events back. Shadow War pumped a lot of ISK into the game, so not having events counterbalance it. That's true. But I don't know, man. I could see it, like, I could get it with the other holiday events, because especially since they've been tying those into what's going on, like Esri Hakazutsu and Zohar, which if you don't know those names, we'll mention them more later. But if we learned anything from this year's Burning Man, sometimes rain in the desert cannot be a good thing. Oh my God. What? Look. I'm not saying that things are falling apart, but like, what was it? A couple years ago, there was that weird get together that was on that island that ended up being like a complete death trap with like not enough support, and it was all rained out, and like they didn't even they didn't even have access control of the island like they thought they were going to, and like the celebrities weren't there. Fire Festival, yeah. So like Fire Festival melts down, but it was so mismanaged. Now Burning Man, which is like the tippy top of these kinds of things, has this kind of problem, like the Firefest level problems. That's wild to me. But whatever. I hope everybody, stay safe. I hope everybody's good. Second fire. Look, no, we're not. Nope. We're not going down that one. We're not dealing with this. We're not dealing with this. We'll talk about that some other time. Whew. All right. So where were we? Okay. Next, to talk about my predictions for the future, we must talk about what has happened. And with that, I'm going to show a video.
Capsuleers attending a session of the Interstellar Anti-Smuggling and Counter-Piracy Conference at the JITA 4 TAC 4 Trade Hub were surprised when a Concord presentation on rising smuggler activity was apparently hijacked by the...
Wrong video. This was last year's FanFest. Let me get back to that. Shoot, hold on. I thought I had this prepared. Man, my transition was so smooth and everything. Oh, man. If that was right, if that would have been good, that would have been good. But well, we can't have nice things, apparently. No, I'm going to get back to it. I meant to get back to that one, but we're going to start where people are. It does seem like forever.
Let's see it.
Man, their animation system has improved so much over the last 3 years, Mike.
I bring promise of a brighter future for us all. This is an invitation.
So this came out 2 weeks ago, all right? And it caught a lot of people off guard. I want to talk about this for a little bit. Before I go any further, as just an aside, I want to talk about this girl. Her right here. Should I get back to her later? Should I get back to her later? Should we talk about the Deathless first? I am far more interested in this girl than the Deathless. I gotta say that. But maybe we'll get back to her. So this video, a lot of people like this video, but it's very confusing for some people. A couple things to point out is that these two guys right here, these two folk, this is Zohar, which is the head of the Angel Cartel group that raided the Ore Laboratories Rourke Wall and stole the compression technology last year for ship compression. And this is Esri Hokozotsu, also known as the Tanuki, who was a deep infiltrator by the Guristas in the Caldari Navy, who is investigating the Project Phoenix while and in communication with Leopold and Valari, who works for the Deathless, and ended up kind of having the whole operation get exposed, right? So, in fact, there's one more video to watch. Isn't there? Isn't there a scope? Yes.
Following a remarkable hunt by Capsuleers, 4 ancient Jovian stargates have been discovered. The first stargate was found in the devastated system of Turner, discovered by the Winterco Research Group. The same group also located another gate in G-0Q86. The third gate was found in H-PA29 by the Capsuleer Hack, while the last one was found by Capsuleer Siron Istyar in the system of Alsavoinen. Both these Capsuleers wished to mention and acknowledge the open source efforts done by the Arytaka Research Consortium and collaborators, attributing to them a crucial role in finding the gates. The gates appear to have lain hidden and dormant for many centuries. While the gates are currently offline, they're shrouded by an unusual active cloaking field and appear to be completely intact. The discovery of the stargates was the culmination of tremendous efforts by Capsuleers to collect and decipher pirate data in recent days. The gate's search was sparked by leaked security footage from an undisclosed pirate hideout showing a figure now confirmed to be the Deathless, the shadowy leader of a circle of pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries. In a ceremony held at the School of Conscious Thought at FDZ 4-A, Elder Mentor Machi Raish awarded the Capsuleers involved and vowed further investigation.
On behalf of the Society of Conscious Thought and the people of New Eden, we thank you for your efforts and perseverance in the search for these Jovian stargates. Your achievement is remarkable, and as promised, you will receive your due reward.
I think that's the first time we've ever heard Matashi Reich speak, and I gotta say, that is exactly what I thought Matashi Reich would sound like.
Preliminary findings from a survey of the first gate to be found indicate that it has probably been recently reconnected with its destination system. However, it is clearly in a locked state and is almost certainly under control of a network routed through its connection, likely at some central location. We speculate that the controlling location is that referred to by the name Zarzak. This name appears to be an ancient Amar word, meaning at the edge, but it is currently unclear what this may refer to. We believe that the Deathless is controlling the state of this gate and any others that exist from this Zarzak location. Rest assured that every effort will be made to gain further understanding of this remarkable discovery, and make sure that the opportunities and knowledge it brings will be used to the benefit of all of New Eden. Thank you.
Where do these gates lead is the question that's on everyone's mind today. The Scope will continue to monitor this story and keep you informed as it develops. This is Alton Hovery, reporting for the Scope.
Okay, so in order to find these gates, people had to do two things. They had to collect they had to collect navigational fragments by intosising Jovian structures, and then they had to get coordination clues, like coordinate clues, by killing Angel and Garistus officers, or like not officers, but commanders, elite, any sort of rare spawns or anything like that, overseer, in order to get these random videos. And the video was a chunk of one of these videos. So like, if you see like each square here would be a video. And so as people continued to hunt for them, when a new video was brought in, everybody was kind of dropping them into the Arytaka Research Consortium and other places in order to kind of help us collect together to kind of decode them in order to figure out where, because you need to know exactly what combination of coordinate data to use, and you have to know what system and what location in that system to start from in order to end up at the correct location. That was what was required. So all that information was encoded in like sound codes and word codes and all that stuff, encrypted into these sorts of things. And that's why, like, once the first gate was found, then kind of we knew how it worked. And that's why the other 3 gates were found so fast, because we already were collecting information about everything. And as soon as we knew how the code worked, then it was like, oh, well, then this is this one, this is this one. Okay. So now they're here. Before we talk about the Deathless and all that stuff, I do want to talk about that idea of where they go. So if we look at this space like this, now the gates themselves are, there's one in Venal, I think there's one in Curse, right? And then one in, basically, there's one in Garistus Nullsec, there's one in Angel Nullsec, and then there's one in each war zone, right? The Amar Mimitar war zone has Turner, the Gallente Caldari war zone has Alparina, right? So, and then somebody took a picture of, took the thing and like looked at where all the gates went and saw that they said that they thought that it was like somewhere in here. So the idea was, you can see my mouse, right? My mouse? Yes. Somewhere in here. Let me... That way they're a little bit brighter. So in this area over here, they were like, oh, maybe they're going to add new systems, and that's what it's going to be. Like, his headquarters are right here. But here's the thing, and I'll give you this prediction right now. We'll talk more as we go on. We'll talk about it. It is a good theory. I have a different one. This system right here. See that one? Not that one. There it is. Sorry, it was this section down here that it pointed to. But that leads us to this system right here. Inur. I believe that the Stargates will connect to Inur when it's time. I think that Inur is going to be the headquarters of the new Deathless faction. That's my prediction. That's my top level prediction with this. Okay. So let's talk about why. I have a video called "Who is the Deathless" from a few years back, or from last year, I guess, where we talk about the Deathless and where we were, because basically the Deathless showed up for a lot of people for the first time last year at FanFest, coincidentally. So at FanFest, during the keynote, in the middle of FanFest, like just prior to FanFest last year, they started an event in which these smuggler locations started to appear all over the New Eden, and we were told by Concord to go and blow them up, right? And then like a few days later, FanFest happened, and that's when the Deathless, that's when this happens.
Capsuleers attend.
Inur is deep in Molten Heath. Inur is deep in Molten Heath. This is Molten Heath. That's also, it's worth noting that, so I looked it up. The word, the Deathless word, or the word for the location, it is a corruption of another word that starts with B that does mean like border, right? So, and that's very similar to how they do these sorts of things. And if you look, like, if you assume that the Amar also considers the the Minmatar area as being their territory, then Inur is right at the border of the Amar territory. So it would track that it would also be Inur. Especially since Skarkon's now gone.
Attending a session of the Interstellar Anti-Smuggling and Counter-Piracy Conference
a year ago.
at the Jita 4 TAC 4 Trade Hub were surprised when a Concord presentation on rising smuggler activity was apparently hijacked by the very same smugglers.
Platitudes, blandishments, lies. You of all people know that Concord and the Empires have no interests in common with you. They have done nothing for you. They shall do nothing for you. How long will you listen to their empty words? In recent days, as is their pitiful habit, Concord has made use of you to advance their own agenda. These free trade outposts you have so willingly cleared of my associates have been taken over by Concord's worst, the Cerro. Perhaps you don't believe me? Check for yourself. I have broadcast the new signatures of those sites to all. Why should you not destroy the Sorrow bully boys? They have always sought to control you. Do their bidding no more. Open your eyes. Seize your destiny. And, if you would, join me, the Deathless.
Embarrassed by this intrusion, Concord officials have refused to comment on Sorrow activity at occupied smuggler outposts, other than to state that measures are simply being carried out to ensure the complete eradication of illegal smuggling activities. Any recent improvements in the strained diplomatic relationship between the Gallente Federation and the Caldari state have been overshadowed by claims that a Gallente diplomat was involved in a massive spy ring operating within the Caldari state. The Caldari State's chairman, Akimaka Saraki, delivered a fiery speech in a live broadcast from the Caldari Chief Executive Panel yesterday. The scheduled speech was reportedly originally aimed at promoting interstellar diplomacy due to the ongoing Jita 4 TAC 4 summit. However, with state corporations and citizens expressing outrage over the new allegations, the delivered speech leaned heavily into patriotic rhetoric and evoked previous hostilities with the Gallente state.
We remain Caldari, no matter the cost.
No direct response or comments have been made by the Gallente Federation so far, but Federation Navy and Customs forces have been placed on heightened alert status. This is Alton Hovery, reporting for The Scope.
All right. So yeah, basically, in the Easter, or for the Easter event, we had
Concord has made a major breakthrough in its fight against a rising tide of smuggling, uncovering a major network of smuggler and mercenary bases across New Eden. Sources in the Directive Enforcement Department have indicated that Thucker and Caldari organized crime and mercenary groups have played a key role in building up this network.
Pay attention. Thucker and Caldari criminal organizations. That's important.
Concord has shared this information with all empires and is requesting the assistance of Capsuleers in disrupting this extensive web of hideouts and dead drop hacking sites. Smuggler hideouts are reported to be spread across New Eden, including a number of bases hidden in the depths of wormhole space. Concord has broadcast the gravimetric and electromagnetic signatures of these locations so the illegal sites can be found using onboard ship scanners. Smuggler dead drop and stash sites have been detected in all regions, with these requiring scanning and hacking to discover and disrupt. Concord has declared that any materials recovered by Capsuleers in the course of dismantling the smuggling network will be legitimate salvage to be retained as payment for services to interstellar law and order. Against the background of increased criminal and smuggling activity, a serious diplomatic crisis has sprung up between the Caldari state and the Gallente Federation, as evidence has emerged pointing towards Gallente involvement in the recent mass defection of infiltrators and spies within the Caldari state. An investigation by Caldari counterintelligence has identified a man meeting with Ezri Hakuzosu days prior to her defection as Leopold N. Valari, a Gallente diplomat attached to the federal consulate on the Jita 4TAC4 trade hub. Leopold N. Valari appears to have been assisting the Gallente Senate delegation visiting the Caldari state 2 months ago. One key goal of the Senate delegation's visit was to explore possible avenues of achieving a peaceful resolution of the status of the long-disputed Intaki system. Located in the contested Placid region, the war-torn system contains Intaki Prime, homeworld of the Intaki people. Extensive militia warfare over the past decade has seen the system change hands dozens of times, with periods of lengthy occupation and even planetary raiding by Caldari forces. The Senate visit had ended just as the Garista's spy ring was exposed, and Leopold N. Valari is reported to have returned to the Federation with the Gallente delegation. The Caldari state's chairman, Akimaka Saraki, is known to have been in direct communication with President Celis Agard of the Gallente Federation as diplomats on both sides scramble to swiftly resolve this sudden crisis. The Gallente Federation firmly denies any involvement in the infiltration of state military and research agencies by Garista spies, but this development has already set back discussions on the future of the Intaki system, causing alarm on Intaki Prime. Federal authorities are refusing to confirm or deny reports that N. Valari has subsequently disappeared. The Caldari state has added Leopold N. Valari to their most wanted list, ignoring Gallente protests at listing a federal diplomat as a wanted criminal. The Scope will report as the situation develops. This is Alton Havary, reporting for The Scope.
All right. And before I go any further, I do want to remind everybody that if you are enjoying the stream, please make sure to like the stream and share my content with other people and check out my other videos because it is all extremely helpful. We're here to help maximize player engagement with EVE Online and help unlock people's immortality by increasing the literacy of EVE Online and improving the game as a whole. So, yeah, thank you. All right, either way. So, okay, we have N. Valari and the Deathless and Ezri Hakuzosu, and we also have this dude.
The Angel Cartel has been confirmed to be behind an armed incursion into an Outer Ring Excavations research and development station in the 4C-TAC B7X system, carried out last week. Hijacking of the Rorqual-class industrial capital ship Esperance was evidently the main objective of this operation. The Esperance was being used by Outer Ring Excavations for the testing of prototype moon ore compression technology. Heavily armed cartel commandos infiltrated the station using a captured Bowhead-class freighter, the Astrolabe, which was scheduled to deliver equipment and supplies to the Esperance. Once docked at the 4C-TAC B7X station, disguised and equipped with forged biometric identity chips, the Angels managed to load their hidden assault team containers onto the Esperance unopposed. Once in place, the infiltrators struck and heavily armed commandos emerged from the containers. In mere minutes, the Angels took over the ship, powered up, and executed an emergency undock procedure. By the time the alarm was raised and OR security teams were at the docks, the Esperance had warped away. It is believed that the ship jumped out of the system with its prototype compression technology long before OR defense squadrons could respond. The Scope was invited to meet with Outer Ring Excavations CEO Afat Asset on board the Astrolabe earlier today. The interior of the freighter shows clear evidence of a deadly and ruthless assault, but with most of its logs wiped, information on the hijacking is partial at best. The means by which the Angel Cartel assault team managed to board and capture the Astrolabe is unclear, but it is suspected that the attackers hid in the specially modified cargo containers until the ship was underway. With typical Angel Cartel disdain for law enforcement, the attackers made no attempt to hide their affiliation. Indeed, it appears a single audiovisual log from the Astrolabe was deliberately left untouched. This disturbing record shows that at least some of the freighter's doomed crew were cruelly ejected into space after their surrender. CEO Afet Aset made the following statement.
Citizens of New Eden, we came under attack last week when the peaceful mining vessel Esperance was hijacked by cowardly members of the Angel Cartel. The work carried out on the Esperance by its brave and selfless crew will in the long run benefit every...
Yeah, okay, great. So now we have our main characters, right? We have Zohar, we have Esri Hokuzotsu, we have Leopold, and we have the Deathless, okay? Now, it's worth noting that at this time, when it first happened, these two events were disconnected, right? Zohar did his thing, Esri did her thing. Esri was connected to Leopold, but those two people were not connected. Now, Zohar is Angel Cartel, Esri is Guristas, right? So that's Mimitar and Caldari. It's worth noting that the missing pirate faction is Mimitar Caldari. That's the one pirate faction pair-up that doesn't exist in the game. By the way, I've gone over all of this stuff in way more detail in previous videos, so I'm only going to kind of skip over the highlights here. If you want more information, go there, or we'll talk about it later. Either way, the point is that it would seem like we've gotten evidence now that the two of them are working together and are working with the Deathless. Okay, so and in addition to that, we have this Deathless Circle group, right? But we also have the emergence of a different group, the Guri Malakan. Now, the Guri Malakan is a formal alliance between the Angel Cartel and the Guristas. So the question that I have is, what is the relationship between the Guri Malakan and the Deathless? So in order to do that, in order to figure that out, we got to look at who the Deathless is. Now, I have a whole video called Who is the Deathless or whatever, but just a little bit. He didn't show up last year. He actually showed up for the first time nope, that's actually the wrong one. Never mind, history. There we go. So on the 16th of June, 2016, which is YC118, we see the very first thing. So there was a civil war in Shandeli. It's the Yinmei Civil War. It'd been going on for a long time. The Civil War ended, and the private military organizations of Intara Direct Action, Ostakan Agency, and Sekal Expeditionary Group has disengaged for a sovereign non-compete clause, right? And then also it says the unusual stalemate, blah, blah, blah. It makes a comment. So then an FIO dossier on the Serpentis shipyards gets stolen. And this is talking about that. This is saying that the FAO dossier and the Serpentis military buildup making its way into the hands of an entity only known as the Deathless. While being confused as to the exact status of the Deathless, these reports allege that identifier was recently used in the hiring of several military corporations previously active on the planet Shandeli. So we can see, like, this happens right after this. So they pull out, and then this happens. So this ties Intara Direct Action, Ostakan Agency, and Sekal Expeditionary Group, potentially with the Deathless. Now, it's worth noting that the Angel Cartel and the Sekal Group were having a lot of... was having a turf war right around here. Mostly focused on Skarkon. Now, Skarkon is an interesting system because Skarkon is the system that, like, is one of the catalysts for the Empyrean War back in 2008. So the Mimitar Republic are so bad at handling Skarkon that eventually they were like, well, we want to be with the Angels now. And so they, like, sealed off the Stargates and they tried to join the Angel Cartel. And it was one of the big crises that led to the Empyrean Age. Now, the turf wars were starting up again back in 2018, and then all the way through 2020 until Skarkon was stolen by a bunch of Triglavians and now is part of Pochvin. So the turf war kind of spread out from there and really settled on Anur as a big point of contention between these groups. However, it would seem over the last couple of years, we see a lot of notes about peace treaties and agreements coming together between these different pirate groups. And it's like there's lots and lots of little things coming in between these different groups and different agreements. It seems like the pirates are kind of pulling together in a certain amount, to the point where we see a pretty significant formal alliance form in Anur earlier this year. So the Deathless is this contractor that's been around since 2018 and is like, basically, he's not part of any given pirate organization. He is like a broker of sorts of different pirate organizations. Couple things. One, he's not Jovian. Okay, everybody keeps saying that he's Jovian or that she's Jovian. Neither of them are Jovian. There's no indication that either of them are Jovian. They are both Capsuleers, nothing more. They're also not SOCT or Draglavian or any of those sorts of things. In fact, I personally believe that I know who the Deathless is. I believe that he is a guy named the Fiend Ani Anakori, who is this rebel that hates sorrow and has been around for a long time and has lots of connections within the underworld. I think that he's reemerged as the Deathless. We'll have to see as time goes on. As I said in the other video, I explain it more. So basically, no, she didn't. Hold on. Really? Trust me, I do want to talk about her. So she does have odd eyes, but she clearly has pupils. Yeah, she has eyes. She has like an iris and everything. It's in the shadows a lot. But trust me, I am 99% sure that neither of them are Jovian, okay? Now, another couple things that was pointed out about her is that her suit looks very Jovian. And I agree, that suit looks very Jovian. I think that her suit is a Jovian navigation suit that has been customized. Some people have mentioned her jaw. Her jaw is literally a cosmetic that you can get in the game, okay? So it's not that. Yes, Molten Heath was also the Dust 514 region. That is a good point. So what's also interesting about this Deathless stuff, in particular, is we talk about these organizations like Antara Direct Action, Sekal Mercenary Group, Ostakon Agency. There's other ones that show up in other different places. You know, different groups that are not the big ones, right? Not the Garistas or the Angels or whatever. What's interesting about these groups are they are all corporations and merc groups from Dust 514, their old shooter. So put a pin in that. Back to her. So let's talk about her. We like I said, we'll learn more about the Deathless as time goes on. It is worth noting a couple pieces of evidence that Valari, when he escaped, he went to Inur as a place to hide out. And there's been in the news several things where Inur has been basically the place where people go. There's been lots of deals being brokered between pirates in Inur, which is why I think that that is becoming the seat of power of the Deathless itself. Okay? So that's the Deathless. Let's talk about her. Okay. This is where I look ridiculous for a little bit. I have an entry in my things for a character named Alpadirch. This is Alpadirch. Well, this isn't really Alpadirch. If you look up Alpadurch in game, you'll see that Alpadurch does work at the Shuru Station 10, Moon 3, Sisters of Eve Bureau, as said here. The problem is Alpadurch actually looks like this. So when they showed off this UI show off for like what missions are going to look like, they for some reason used her character, and you can see her eyes way more clearly there, right? They used this character. But like, okay, maybe it was stand-in, maybe they just used an asset, they don't know what they're talking about. I thought that too. But here's the thing. The very first time I ever saw her was when it came out on Epic Game Store, there was an image of EVE Online, and it had her on it, and it caught my eye because I was like, I really want that suit, and it was her shoulder pad. There's a few things that really stood out. One was the shoulder pad with its blunted spikes, and her hair sweep to the side, right? Those are the two things that were very indicative of her, plus, you know, the craziness of the suit, right? So at the time, I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get this cosmetic with the next expansion, which was Uprising. Obviously, that didn't happen. So who was this person? And I kind of wrote it off as no big deal until someone pointed out this picture. Where's this picture from? Go look.
Smuggling activity. Investigation by
See this? Watch this. Watch it again.
mass defection of infiltrators and spies within the Caldari state. An investigation by Caldari counterintelligence has identified a man meeting with Ezri Hakuzosu days prior to her defection as Leopold N. Valari, a Gallente diplomat attached to the federal consulate on the Jita 4 TAC 4 trade hub. Leopold.
So yeah, there she is. She's the freaking bartender in the Jita station when Leopold gets caught. Now, if we go to Esri's post, to Esri's notes, I have all of her notes that were pulled up, and she talks about the peacock. She says that, you know, the peacock is, turns out to be Envalari. It's her point of contact, right? And at the end, she says, like, she calls him kind of very, like, flippant. Where is it? Yeah. Afterwards, met the peacock at the usual place. I don't know why he insists on using that bar. He'll get us all caught sooner or later. I passed the latest news on Firebird. Oh, Firebird, not Phoenix. As usual, he tried to get some data out of me there and then. Does he think that I carry it out around on me? I don't know what the rabbit sees in him, but I'm saddled with the guy as a handler. I'll just keep making a record of these security lapses so I don't. And then later, the next thing is that she gets caught. No time to lose. Distributing data to all redundancies. Activating contingency omelet. All cell members dispersing until the egg farm is secured. This went to hell sooner than I would have liked, but we got most of what we wanted. I won't be sorry to get out of this gods and spirits damned uniform at last. Let's hope the rabbit is happy. Right? So the peacock, Leopold, works for the Deathless, and Esri and Zohar now know each other, although back then they didn't seem to. This seems to suggest that at least when this happens, Esri is not in on it, right? This really does feel like Leopold was like a double agent, right? Leopold, well, triple agent, I guess, right? So he was there with the Senate, and the Guristas were using him as a point of contact for Esri, but he really worked for the Deathless, okay? So we know all of that happened. We also know that there's been a lot of controversy between the Deathless and the Guristas and Angels in the past, like the Sekal group and Angels having turf wars, but they've kind of quieted that down. So it looks like, in my opinion, the Deathless's circle, his little cluster of corporations, and the Guri Malakan, which is the formal alliance between the Guristas and Angels, are two different things. I think that the Guri Malakan have basically formed together in response to the Deathless's circle. As the Deathless's circle has begun gaining more and more momentum among spies, mercenaries, and smugglers throughout New Eden, the Guristas and the Angels teamed up together last summer in order to, or this summer rather, in order to gain a lot of technology and try to catch up, right? And figure out what the hell's going on. So I think that in the invitation, this is actually the Deathless's agent delivering the invitation is to an alliance. Because who's she presenting this to? This isn't this video is not inviting us to find the Stargates. That was a consequence. This video depicts her sending the invitation to Esri and Zohar. So this is the Deathless attempting to win over the Angel Cartel and the Guristas. Look, it's time for us to bury our hatchet. We both have crazy tech. I have shit to share with you. The Guristas and Angels have been working on their new destroyers, and here comes the Deathless with his new coordination, right? Oh, I thought the look Esri pulled when she arrived suggests she knew the messenger. That's actually a really freaking good point. Oh, man. Yeah, Esri kind of like squints a little bit.
All right.
She's like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's... Yeah, Esri's like, hold up. Because, okay, this is what I think happened. I think that she was the one who basically got this whole thing broken up, right? But Leopold managed to escape. This was all kind of a... This was all orchestrated, you know? Whatever. So Deathless has the bartender, he has the agent, and Esri's the one contacting him. So Esri probably has no love lost for the Deathless, I would think. But yeah, either way. So, but okay, let's even suggest that you say, okay, well, the bartender is all like that's just stand-in graphics, whatever, fine. They had the model, they've been working on it, they just used it, right? But here's the weirdest one, okay? Like, this is weird because it's obviously a totally different picture. This one's weird because why would they do it? But this one is the one that has me the most locked in, okay? Which one is this one? Well, let's go look.
Cold wind remembers the darkest of days. When the reins of our world became laced with fire. One warrior's fierce duty seared a path to our future. The ultimate sacrifice made in blood and steel. We remain Kaldari, no matter the cost. Everything we are, we owe to our ideals.
They fuel our
Catch it? Oh, wait, no.
rise as the heart of a raging storm. A beacon of strength.
Yeah. Did you catch it? Did you catch it? Did you catch it?
We remain Caldari, no matter the cost.
Wait a minute. That is very clearly her. There's two problems with this, okay? What is she doing here? But more importantly, like, this to me is the cincher that she is not, this isn't just a stand-in model, because the kind of model you would use for this kind of pre-rendered video, I feel, is different than you would use for the other ones. So this feels like a much more, like, it's probably a higher resolution model or whatever. This feels very intentional. I like to say that she's the first character in EVE that has been introduced subliminally. So the key here is, I don't know which of these things to pay attention to. Obviously, this is completely out of game. But the point is that I think that the message is that she's been around, and specifically in the Caldari area, for a while, right? She didn't come from nowhere. And that might be worth paying attention to as we learn more about these characters. But yeah. Yeah, CCP is really good at playing the long game. It's true. It's true. That's why a lot of my stories go like, okay, well, what's going on today? Well, back in 2010. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think she was on a photo for a Plex sale, too. Which is weird because, again, her outfit stands out. It seems very weird for them to continually use her if she doesn't even have a thing in game, right? So, yeah. That's at least some of my thoughts about the Deathless and where this whole Epiphany stuff might be going. As we're getting, and obviously I think that we're going to learn probably the grand reveal of what the hell's going on, and probably the reveal of the Deathless faction is coming with FanFest. Which I guess comes to, hold on a second. I have a thing in my tooth. Hold on. It is bugging me. All right. Or this is all just chance, but you make the writers sit up and take notice. Yeah, although, like, every time it's, like, it seems to not be just chance as much as, like, way more than it is, right? But yes, CCP plays this game, or, like, runs the lore in a very, like, traditional role-playing kind of way, where they have an idea of where things are going, but they kind of sort out things in the moment, and, you know, it can alter depending on player actions. Why would they have access to hidden Jove gates, though? So the Deathless has been focused on... So throughout the entire Shadow War, those mercenaries were probably Deathless agents. During the Concord stuff, those smugglers were Deathless agents. There's been a lot of purchasing and robbing of technology, especially Jovian technology and Triglavian technology, over the last year. So the idea is that I think that what's happened is that the Deathless has found these gates and then figured out a way to recalibrate them. And he's going to turn them on when he's ready. Probably around FanFest. Excuse me. Probably around FanFest. So, that's that. And so we are going to get the new Angel Destroyer, the new Garissus Destroyer, but we also may just get that new pirate faction, which hopefully will come with its own ship line, right? And hopefully an ability to connect things. Because let's think about that. Let's think about what happens if I'm right, okay? If I'm right, then the 5 systems, the Venal system, the Curse system, Turner, and Alperena, will, and Ur will all be connected. Ur will be the hub, and the other 4 will be the spokes. And Turner has, because they blew up the star, has a lot of like unusual amount of lowsec wormhole connections. It always has at least 10 wormhole connections to lowsec somewhere in Turner. So what we have is this awesome network of smuggler gates. Like, let's say, for instance, you have to actually be positive, or you have to work for the Deathless in order to use these gates. Well, now you have gates that lead to both war zones and north and south nullsec, with a central base in the middle, with Turner being able to be used to attack every... There's actually lots of groups now that are living in Turner and using it to strike out to other places. So, like, this idea of, like, a full-fledged, full-on actual pirate group, right, is absolutely going to be valid with this if they do it. Because you're going to be well-connected. You're going to have these smuggler gates, basically, to use. And it's all within low and nullsec, so they could even theoretically make it so that you can't use these gates and also be able to be in high sec at the same time, right? Like, they could do all kinds of cool stuff with that. So that's what I think. That's where I think that they're going with this kind of stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what that feels right to me. I've already said that I want the Deathless ships to have the old school ECM as their... Everybody hates it when I say this, but like the idea that when they jam you can't target them back. That should be their cheat. Yeah, I do agree that, like, I thought that the Stargates were going to lead to Jove space, but let me tell you, literally, this is how much I knew it was a Nur. As soon as somebody told me, oh yeah, no, they don't point to Jove space, I was like, did they point to a Nur? And then I saw the graph and I was like, oh yeah, they totally are pointing to a Nur. Because, like, that was the most obvious next one, because a Nur has been built up so much in the last year as being this new headquarters for the Deathless. The point, one of the CSM chats, they talked about that system. You're talking about a Nur or a Turner? Can those drifter elements be used on the Jove gates? So far, no one has figured out anything that can be used on the Jove gates. And they're also not lockable. So there's nothing that you can... Like, they're not interactable. You can't even select them. So there's not like you can use something on them that I saw. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, Turner. Yeah. A lot of people are learning. Like, look, I'm in Turner right now. This is a low-sec system, right? There are 86 people in local in a low-sec system. Yes, Turner is fairly popular. How do you name this location? ENN. Now you got me. Now you got me questioning myself. Hold on. ENNUR. Wasn't the original bombardment module a destroyer module only? Also, what it was a small ammunition. So it could go into any small weapon. And obviously destroyers carry the most small weapons. So everybody used destroyers. Yeah, it's also worth noting that, like, all of the Dust 514 stuff took place in Molten Heath. And a lot of this stuff has a lot to do with the plot and a bunch of other places. You can look up previous videos like the Ugali situation. Like I said, the video on the Deathless, my tinfoil video. Actually, I recommend, I have a speed run the lore. It's like under 2 hours where I go through basically everything up through Uprising of, like, what's relevant to now. So if you combine that with this, you'll probably be pretty caught up. But yeah, so what is my prediction for FanFest? What do I think that the winter expansion is going to be about? Well, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge how off I was when it comes to the spring expansion. Viridian, I predicted that that expansion was going to have us be able to get stellar transmuters, so that way we could alter space and like nullsec and stuff in order to change different statuses and get different access to resources. This seemed pretty obvious to being where we were going. The image that kind of teased it was a picture of a transmuted star. There has been talks about adding stuff in, including a terraforming-like thing to nullsec, and it was supposed to come at the beginning of last year, or even the year before, and it didn't happen. So I don't know what happened with that. I think that CCP definitely has a plan for it and definitely wants to do it, but it feels like the kind of thing that just keeps on getting punted, right? So yeah, Viridian did not have to do with stellar transmuters. So the question is, what about my prediction for the winter expansion? Well, my prediction for the winter expansion was it will be focused around, or it will involve Amarr invading nullsec, right? Specifically Tashmercon. So back in the day, a few years ago, two, 3 years ago, there was the Stargate Trailblazer thing, and each empire set up a new Stargate. Now, prior to this, if you didn't play before this, I need to kind of explain something to you. There was a character on Reddit named Stain Guy, right? Stain Guy, for years, I mean, literally at least half a decade, staunchly, vocally, and aggressively advocated for a low-sec gate to Stain. Now, he had some pretty decent reasons why he thought it would be a good idea, but it became such a popular request, especially by him, that it became a meme. So when they announced the different Stargates, and it was like, okay, well, the Minotaur get closer connected to Concord, the Gallente are reconnecting the Gallente space to Solitude. That makes sense. The Caldari are attempting to restore some sort of connection between Jita and Amarr. And the Amarr build a Stargate to Stain. And they did actually announce a Stargate to Stain on April Fools, right? That was the first step to this. So everybody was like, ha 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 ha. But then it turned out to be real, right? So there's always this feeling like this was like just a meme, that this Stargate was made for the meme. But here's the problem with that. This is Sandmanir. It is in the region of Tashmercon. Tashmercon is owned by the Tashmercon family. The Tashmercon family are one of the most wealthiest families in the cluster. And the current matriarch of the Tashmercon family is Kattis Tashmercon, who is the empress of the Amarr Empire. She's in charge of the entirety of Amarr. She actually is such a shrewd businesswoman that she made herself independently the richest woman in the entire cluster prior to becoming the empress, or even the heir. And I'm not showing you. So, this is the Tashmercon territory. Player built gates, whatever happened to that? I honestly think that it became effectively Ensilibex's, right? Jump bridges. But yeah, a lot of it was an incredibly idealistic ambition of CCP Seagull. I'll put it that way. They got a lot of it, but there's a lot of it that they didn't manage to accomplish. Anywho, so when the Empress took over, one of the things that she did was divide up the Amarr Empire and basically give each empire territory that they were responsible for, right? And the smallest area of territory that they gave was to Tashmerkon, right? Basically, and this is important because it's not about like, oh, well, smallest territory, maybe it's because they're the weakest. It's actually kind of the opposite, right? It's the least amount of responsibility, right? But the Tashmerkon family have been building up fortifications in here, including this is where their big fortress is. Now, this has been here for a while, but like this is where one of the biggest Tashmerkon fortresses are. So the idea is if Tashmerkon has ambitions, what they would do is they would set this up so that way they can take and expand into Stain. Now, why would they do that? Well, they've made the new faction warfare system, and that's great. Very popular. Everybody loves it. And these are the faction warfare territories, right? But these are the only territories. So the idea is that you could actually start a kind of faction warfare between the Amarr and the Sancha as a way of beginning to include pirates in with the faction warfare idea, right? Because that was kind of one of their goals. Also, the Caldari did take space in Solitude, so there could be a conflict between the Gallente and the Caldari that basically spreads into Nullsec. So the idea is that I thought and I think that they are going to be touching on this pretty soon, right? I can't remember which ones of these have Garissa's control, Caldari control, but either way. So it seems like they're kind of setting that up as an idea. But all of this stuff that's been happening recently, like that was all just predictions based on stuff over the last couple of years and the picture from the beginning of this year. It was very, very speculative. So while I do believe that they are still probably going in that direction, I don't know whether or not that's going to be this expansion. However, I do feel like I have a prediction for this expansion. This is going to be a big one. So we're going to find out in 15 weeks, or 15 days rather, whether or not I am right or wrong. But I feel like the focus of the next expansion is going to be the pirates. Pirates and piracy. The crime system. Criminal activity. Underground, smuggling. So last year when they introduced the Deathless stuff, one of the rewards was the Boo Book. The Boo Book is a barely known ship that is a shuttle that has very little cargo space. It only has it only has 10 meters cubed, not very much, but it has the added advantage that it cannot be scanned, and therefore it is used for smuggling. So, and there has been a lot of talk about smuggling and all that sort of stuff. So, it got me thinking. There are a lot of systems that exist or did exist that effectively now are low-hanging fruit that could be pulled together for a really, really great expansion. So let's talk about what we could do. We could have... so commodities are absolutely a thing. Like, very few people actually do this, but you can go into one region, buy commodities in that region, take it to a different region, and sell it for profit. This was one of the oldest ways of making money in the game, which also means that it's basically been supplanted by every other way of making money in the game. one of the pieces of that is that some of the contraband or some of the stuff is illegal, and selling illegal stuff in places where they're illegal often is very valuable. But again, nobody does this stuff. Very few people interacts with these mechanics. So that entire smuggling and transportation world, hauling, smuggling, all that sort of stuff is just begging for a relook. And on top of that, you can even tie it into faction warfare, right? Because you've got front lines. They've been talking about wanting to do more stuff about the front lines. Well, guess what? Just like smugglers want to take drugs from one point to another, the Caldari and the Gallente need you to smuggle fucking, or take supplies to the front line from the home fronts or whatever, right? So like maybe there's new courier missions to come and bring stuff, and that'll help with advantage or whatever, right? You have all of this ripe opportunity where it comes with like transportation and the need for transportation of things, the smuggling of things, and other kind of criminal activity in that sense. Crime Watch. The entirety of Crime Watch is just bonkers. And like, yes, it would be a big thing to overhaul Crime Watch, but any kind of overhaul of Crime Watch, or even an update to Crime Watch, would perfectly fit in with this. The introduction of a new Deathless faction and new pirate battlecruisers that can be gotten for working for the pirate factions. That's all there, right? All of the pieces are in place for them to make a really good expansion about piracy, pirates, smuggling, and these basically as the empires have descended into war, the pirates are now taking that opportunity to make their move. And so that's why I think that what we're going to see is a very pirate-centric kind of thing. You know, we've got the Deathless Circle, we've got the other pirate factions, we've got pirate missions, we've got distribution missions, we've got Crime Watch, we've got all that kind of stuff. We got the new Stargates. And that's an expansion. That right there, that's an expansion. Throw in a few other things, you're done. So, and they have a lot of other stuff that they've set up through things like home fronts. There's now different radical organizations. You know, there's the Gallente Primacy. There's the Ashes of Allara. I always say Ashes of Allara. The Ashes of Turner. You know, there's the Caldari one and the Amar one. The Amar one is like the new version of the Purity of the Throne. But each one of them now have their own like rebel faction internal. So there's all of this stuff about like the underbelly of the empires. And so I really think that that's where we're going. And with all this stuff with the invitation, and think about it, I think that the point of Epiphany wasn't to give us a really great event. It was to set up what's going to happen in 2 weeks. That's it. It's the equivalent of right before invasions. Suddenly, if you went into Tier 5 Abyss, you could end up in the shipyard room. And that was when we first got the ability to see the World Arc. And yeah, only a few people got to do that because not a lot of people were doing Tier 5 Abyss and, you know, whatever. But what it was a herald of things to come. So we now have these Stargates that are offline and just simply waiting. And we have FanFest coming up. So get ready, boys and girls. That's all I know. Throw in a few other things like i.e. pirate blops with bonuses to negative sex status. Yeah, you could, I mean, like, there's all kinds of cool stuff that you could potentially get into. But like, Tech 2 pirate ships, you know, whatever. Like, you know, you could do whatever. You know, there's still pirate battle cruisers you could expand into. We only have 2 races. Like, I think that the Guri Malakan, in the end, I don't think that they're going to introduce all of the different pirates. They may just only introduce the Guri Malakan and the Deathless as like the 2 groups that you can join. But brace for impact, yeah. So there's one final piece of tinfoil to all of this. Okay. Isn't it a bit odd, and I've talked about this before, isn't it a bit odd that they moved FanFest to winter? Isn't it a bit odd that they kind of shifted around the entire schedule, the entire year for this? Oh yeah, new holiday events that are surrounded around the around the empires, perfectly, or around the pirates. The new mission system is another, or not mission, event system is a perfect thing to roll out as part of the expansion. And if the focus of the expansion is going to be on the Amar, especially when it comes to invading of Stain and stuff, let's look at the first two events that we're going to get. We're going to get the Crimson Harvest, which is Blood Raiders, and Winter Event, which is Sancha. So the chances that the plot will take a radical shift in that direction is pretty high, right? So we're going to see this come to a head, the formation of these groups, and then the Crimson Harvest is going to happen like immediately after that. So it's going to be interesting. Why move FanFest? Why do, like, they had a lot of this year like they followed their path for this year way more than I've ever seen them before. And the fact, why the event thing, right? The events being away from the whole year, but they know that it's going to come back in October. Like, what's going on? I've said this before, and I say this every time, and I'm just going to say it again. I think that this is indication that they could announce the shooter tomorrow at FanFest. That's the other piece that's been kind of missing in all of this. Not mention that a lot of these plots, including the Drifter plot and all that stuff, is tied intrinsically to the shooter, and therefore can't really move forward without the shooter. The Deathless and this entire plot line has effectively resurrected the Merc groups and establishing firm groups. So now, like, if they come out with the shooter, you can work for the Deathless Circle or Aegis, right? Those are the two big teams, or that you can work for one of the other groups, whatever it is. But, like, you know, that's the red versus blue, as it were. You know, we already have that. You have that set up. You have a lot of other pieces set up. We know that the shooter is coming around. I don't think that they're releasing it soon, but it seems to indicate to me that this, like, a lot of this stuff over the last few years has been building up a lot. I like to say that we're living in the prehistory of the upcoming shooter, or not the prehistory, but the pre-story. And so, if you think about it from that perspective, a lot of this really makes sense. So, I hope and suspect that what we're going to see is, while we won't necessarily see the shooter come out, we might see it like enter into alpha or whatever. But what we're going to see is more of a formal acknowledgement of the shooter as the plot of the story becomes more and more overtly about that. Because remember, all of last year, basically until 2 months ago, was just campaign arc 1, right? So if you think about the entire arc from the Deathless showing up at FanFest all the way to the conclusion of the Shadow War, that was arc 1. So you'd say that that arc was all about faction warfare and the empires descending into war. Well, this is the new arc has started. And the very first thing that happens in the new arc is the invitation. So that's what makes me think that this new arc is going to be surrounded around the pirates, and ultimately in the same way that the last arc was around faction warfare, this arc could be about the shooter. It's been nearly 7 years since I played a game. I'm so far behind on what's going on. I've got lots of studying up to do. Like I said, I have a crash course on the Eve lore, a speed run of the Eve lore, and I also have a video called Returning to Eve. Watch this first. That'll help you out quite a bit. What shooter? So CCP has been working on a shooter for like 10 years. I have a video about it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go too deep into the story of the shooter because I have that video, only because I spent so much time pulling up. I do an entire chronology of the shooter from 2008 when it was first announced to like last year when I did the video. So go watch that. It'll be more accurate than anything I'll say now. But just suffice to say that they have been working on a shooter for quite some time. Knowing CCB, I expect a Diablo on mobile moment. Well, there's EVE on mobile coming. Like, that's a whole separate thing. Yeah, so okay, so the short of it is, Dust 514, there was a thing called Project Legion that was the attempt to convert Dust 514 to PC. That got canceled when they decided that that was going to be way too much work and they were going to have to rebuild it from scratch. So then they began rebuilding it from scratch and they called it Project Nova. Then they showed off Project Nova a few years later and it got, we're going to generously say, mixed reviews. So they pulled it back and they canceled the alpha and all that stuff and pulled it back to the drawing board and eventually shuttered the Project Nova term. And now it's just been the unannounced shooter ever since. But they've been hiring Unreal developers and level designers and all this kind of stuff for literally like half a decade now for it. They're bundling pirates together as a playable race that start in NPC. I don't like that idea at all. So I don't think that that's a good idea. No, I think that's a terrible idea. And I think that this is the same as the Trigovian thing. Like, I don't understand people that want there to be a pirate, like start in as a pirate group, because the thing is that like pirate, first of all, you're just born as you're born and you can have your loyalty. Like I think that pirate groups should be something that you make the choice. Well, I understand that you're kidding, but a lot of people suggest this. So I'm going to jump on it. You know, a lot of people want to start out as a Triglavian, for example. And I don't think that that's the way it's supposed to be, because think about it. You're a new player, right? Right now, as a new player, new players already stress out about, oh shit, what race should I play? And you're like, don't worry about it. It's all cosmetic. What happens when it matters? What happens when 4 of the options are easy and fine, and one of the options puts you in the most dangerous place in the game, and you better know what you're talking about? That doesn't work, right? Pirate groups need to be something that the player chooses to reject safety and join, right? That's my opinion. My takeaway from the video is the advancement of the lounge setting for players, economic complexity. Well, the thing is that they've been working more and more and more on their animation systems, and like I showed you several videos over time. So far, it hasn't related to in-game. But the other thing that's worth noting is, rather than thinking about it in-game, there's another way of thinking about this, right? So I believe, let me find another video. So when they first came out with the scope video about Leopold, there was an error in that video. And I pointed it out, and they took it down, and they fixed it, and they put it back up. And then the next one, it was fixed. But in the last one that they did, it wasn't. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? Dang it. No. Shoot. I'm not going to try too hard to find it. All right, whatever. So the point is that that picture of Envelari that we saw earlier, this one. So you can't see any of this. It's fine. You haven't missed anything important. You could actually do their mission and not attack them, their ally not lose standing. Yeah. I want to join Blood Raiders. I love them so much. Yeah. Negative 6.5 standings. Well, I assume that there has to be some sort of mechanic to help fix your standings with the Pirates, because I'm sure everyone, especially since, like, so right before, if they introduced the Gurry Malakin or whatever, like, I just hyper tanked my Angel standings doing all of those anomalies. But anyway, so in this picture, there used to be these little light bulbs over here on the right-hand side, which indicated to me that these videos are actually created in Unreal Engine. And what are they building the shooter in? In the Unreal Engine. So rather than thinking that, I don't think that these animations and these environments that we're seeing are necessarily related to the EVE Online client as we know it. I think that a lot of these environments and other pieces are connected to the development of the shooter. Also, are you in the hat for the CSM? No. No, I didn't run for CSM. So yeah, I think that that's about it for like predictions and prophecies and summaries and what's going on. Have I missed anything serious? I'm sure that there's like an entire topic that I haven't even covered, probably. No, it's okay. I usually do CSM interviews, which I did last year, but I didn't do those this year. I was out of phase with the CSM election. It was at a different time and short, and I talk about it. The beginning of the stream was that. Yeah. So one of the things that I want to talk about, one of the things I want to do now that we're returning for this season, as we were of this stream, is, you know, especially with the appreciation of the returning to Eve video and stuff, I want to work on more of those kind of tutorial-ish sort of things. So like showing how to anomaly rat, gas huff, etc. But tomorrow, I don't know. I'm not going to make any promises about tomorrow. No, I still have this. I have kind of a presentation that I want to give about the process of getting into video games, in particular EVE Online, because I feel like it'll help us understand a lot of the disconnect that we see between experienced players and newer players when it comes to teaching and conference of knowledge. Yeah, me on the CSM would be bad. Just like think about it this way. If I got hired by CCP, then I would just be another person in CCP, right? Like me talking would be no different than like Elise Randolph talking. Or, I mean, CCP Swift talking, right? But since I'm over here and you all support me with your amazing Patreon and membership support, as well as all of your likes and shares and subscribes, the guinea pigs, thank you. But, you know, I work for you guys, no one else. My loyalty is for you guys, no one else. Asterisk. Yeah, you can be blue to pirates, but it doesn't stop them from shooting you yet, right now. But if they redid that, we need to advocate for stronger in-game tutorial utilities. I've talked about this before. The number one thing I want to see in-game is a simulator. Those of us in Corp kind of work for you in return too. That's absolutely correct. And if you want to help out, also, if you're interested in EVE Online or you need to make a new account or you want to check it out, there is a link down below. Or if you're coming back to the game right now, if you've never used one of the buddy links, you can get 1,000,000 free SP right now. It's 40 days of alpha training, 20 days or so of Omega training for free on any character or any account that you haven't used it on. Doesn't matter how old they are. The link is down below. And it doesn't just support me. I actually have a thing that'll send you to a random link of all of the people that are in the Convocation Empyrean staff and other people that like make this show happen and the convocation happen. So I really, really appreciate it. My game time is, we're going to go with paid up, thanks to you guys. So I try to share the love a little bit, but you know, your support, that also really, really helps support the channel. Yes, like for the guineas. So, okay. Unrelated note. I want to give everybody a warning, because I don't want this to come out of the blue if it does happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just want to have said something ahead of time, so that way nobody, well, less people. Okay. I've been playing a lot of different video games over the last few months. Like I said, Baldur's Gate and Starfield are both. Ooh, wow. I actually have this really good playthrough of Baldur's Gate, like 8 hours of Baldur's Gate playthrough that I recorded. It was my very first time playing it, and I'm kind of chopping it up, and I want to release them as like a story to help people kind of see what Baldur's Gate is like without spoiling too much. And it was pretty fun. Bug me if you want that to come out, and it hasn't yet. But look, I don't know what else to say. I tried out Raid Shadow Legends. All right. So what got me going, what got me into it was that step one was Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate got me back into D&D and Forgotten Realms and all that kind of stuff, right? And then Forgotten Realms got me back into Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. And it made me realize that I actually really like idle games, right? Like, I used to play Cookie Clicker. Not like obsessively like, but, you know, like, I like having an idle game running in the background and, like, progressive over time and, you know, whatever. And I knew somebody who I'm not going to throw under the bus again right now, who's been playing it recently. And they've been saying that they actually had some real fun with it. And so I tried it out, and I actually have been liking it. So this is not sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. But I just want to point out that if I make the decision, because I do actually kind of enjoy it, I've been considering taking their money. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. All right. I think that's yeah, that's what I thought. So if I start doing advertisements for Raid Shadow Legends, let it be known that I kind of got hooked by it first. No, I haven't paid them I haven't paid them a cent. Are you kidding me? So honestly, when I play these kinds of games, like, most of the time, a lot of the stuff that isn't cosmetic is like convenient stuff, right? Like regenerating energy and all that stuff, but also free-to-play games like give you a bunch of stuff and all that stuff. I'm the kind of person that looks at that as a challenge, right? I try to see how much I can get out of it without paying any money. And so far, I have done way more than, like, I am overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I can do in the game, and I have not even considered spending. Now, granted, they spam me with requests for money a lot, but yeah, I haven't spent a cent. So Eve Universe Show powered by Raid Shadow Legends. The other thing I wanted to ask everybody, and I'm interested in, is would you guys like to see, oh, that's what I was thinking about doing for tomorrow. Let's actually do this impromptu poll. Just you know, do you want me to focus on, now, obviously, next week, the show continues and all that stuff. But here we go. Tomorrow, I can either do a normal Eve Universe show where we cover more stuff about Eve and I'll figure out, you know, a good show for that. Or tomorrow, we can do Starfield while talking about about Eve and other stuff. Do you guys want to see Starfield or not? Starfield or Eve gameplay? So that's what I want to know. I'm interested because I think that Starfield is one of those games that would be really cool to stream. But, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, my audience is on board before I do it. So the idea is that, like, Starfield would give me a good thing to just do in the background while we chat about different stuff. Raid Shadow Legends? Jesus. Okay. Whatever. Hold on. Look. You asked for this. This is your fault. Container and Elsidar. This is your fault. Okay? Everything that's about to happen from here on out is your fault. Maybe I think I'm just going to do a stream and see how it goes. I take no responsibility for what is about to happen. All right. We are firmly in the after show. Hold on. Let me at least get my webcam up. Okay. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I've got some champions. I've been leveling them up. They've got some gear. I'm getting around. I'm getting along, you know. I've got some cool ones. I just got Sun Wukong. That was like the big, like, it was like the login reward bonus one. But, you know, I've got this cleric girl. I've got this, like, the demon dude and the cleric girl work together. So the way it works is, like, because nobody ever shows the fucking game. So you, like, choose where you want to go, right? Let's get a little bit harder. You choose where you want to go. You choose what level. And then you have your team. In each area, you can select your team, and they all have different powers. Now, this is the part that's like the idle game part. It's not actually an idle game in the same sense. So I can actually individually choose each person's action each turn, right? I can control them if I want to manually do it, right? But I can also just hit auto, and they'll do pretty decent behavior. Now, obviously, I can probably make better decisions than they can. But even when it's auto, I can be like, oh yeah, focus on that dude, and then they will, right? So, you know, it's not bad, guys. All right, I'm done. I'm done. I can't. They haven't paid me yet. I can't do it. As soon as this is over, I'm gonna... The Deathless is, I believe he's in a Nur. ENNUR. Come on, hurry up. Third wave is always the slowest because you've used all your good AoEs on the first two waves. Done. So then I got this crystal and some silver, and then I go to Bastion, and that crystal allows me to go here, and then I can summon a brand new hero. And this hero sucks, but I'm going to feed her to another hero to make them more powerful. That's it. That's all you get. I'm done. That's all you have until somebody pays me to show you guys more. How will the Deathless integrate with Raid Shadow Legends in the newest edition of Project Discovery? So, the new edition of Project Discovery is going to be a collab between Raid Shadow Legends and EVE Online, where if you play Raid Shadow Legends, you'll actually earn the Project Discovery progress and up to the Marshal. And if you play a certain amount of EVE, then that will unlock the Deathless as a hero in Raid Shadow Legends. It's really cool. They better pay me a lot of money. More than anybody else is, I'll put it that way. And the science supported a study on social engineering. in before more random pop-up ads in Eve? Well, you know, honestly, Eve has too little communication to the user of what's going on. Not too much, in my opinion. Amazing pitch off the top. Yeah, that was just off the cuff. All right. I think that probably about wraps it up. What you got there? No, I wasn't even going to consider actually looking into the, like, I've seen, I could pick up the Raid Shadow Legends sponsor. I saw that like years ago. Like, I think on Stream Elements, it's just always there. That's why everybody does it. But, yeah. As soon as I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to just be able to come out and be like, hey guys, I want to advertise Raid Shadow Legends. And like, that'd be the first time I ever mention it, because I would hope that none of you would let me live that down. There you go, Lazy. Exactly. Pay this man. All right. So tomorrow I'll be back. We'll probably be doing some Starfield play, but still doing some Eve chat, more likely than not. Unless there's something exciting going on, or somebody convinces me to do otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I didn't miss that earlier, Raiden. Yeah, Raid Shadow Legends does have pretty, like I said, I've seen the offer. It's pretty good. Like, it's not terrible. Like, it is a good one. But, like, remember, I segued into this by saying that it's important to me that I work for you guys, right? That's why I don't, like, accept any, like, I don't run for the CSM, and I don't try to, like, work for CCP or anything like that. Like, this entire project was to see if I could work for you guys. So, yeah, I want to, but at the same time, you guys are cool with it. No, just kidding. Hey, 07 Ganai, thank you for that gifted sub or membership. Wrong platform. Yeah, but I get, so what I get from this from EVE Online is the fact that I don't pay for any of my accounts, and I have all the Master Arms Cerebral I sold 28 billion ISK worth of Master Arms Cerebral accelerators the other day. The lazy one, you are the true hero. Okay, last call. I have not updated my shout-out screen, but I do want to look at some shout-outs. We don't have any donos, or we don't have any super chats or anything. So I do want to especially call out, and I need to double update this later. So if you're not on this list, you should be called out. Let me know, and I'll double back on it. But thank you especially to my major supporters of Abyssus, Aikawarazu Chan, Arkas Ilring, Arydanika the Queen, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Golden Age Story, Jay Coons, Lumi, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Serenlin with No Eyes, Syliana Vel'ash, Tgen Tgen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yantey Lepouf, Zaul Nex, as well as my immortal tier supporters 745 MPSI, Ebolete, May, Malak Starfire, Merc Utan, Nihilum, LM1, and Rid. Thank you guys so much. But I also just, like, seriously, real talk. I do, like, I know that I wasn't able to make any content over the summer. It bothered me constantly. It's why, like, the one day I had off, I did stream. Not only because I know that, like, there's a lot of things going on that I know that, like, people are like, oh, I need Ash's information about Epiphany. First of all, Epiphany happened so fast, and was that, like, anything I would have put out about it would have been obsolete by the time you saw it. Basically, like, it was just so. But in general, like, I was worried not only because of the fact that you guys, like, I wanted to get content to you, but let's be frank, like, if I'm not putting out content, how am I going to get views? And in spite of that, actually, my channel has done pretty well. All things considered, the and it's my old the videos that are there that are continuing to get views and whatnot as people are sharing it, people are discovering it, people are going through the backlogs, etc. So I really, really mean this. If you watched a video in conclusion within the last 3 months, if you liked it or commented on anything, if you shared it with someone, my sincere and profound thank you. You got me through the summer, and I'm going to be happy to make more stuff for you as long as you are willing to let me make it for you. So, yeah. Let it be known and fast. Look, okay. Yeah. You know what it is, Lazy One? I should just not be as optimistic as I am. I did put out a couple of updates, and I should have put out more updates as messages. But the problem was that he was supposed to spend half of his summer with his mom, and he ended up spending 1 day, not even a night. No, 1 night too. So the entire summer. So that was a big piece of it. And like I said, I expected it to go differently. So yeah, it was unfortunate, and I didn't really know how to handle it. So I didn't. And that sucked. And it probably, I could have done better by you guys, and I apologize for that. But we made it through it. We're into the next, the light. And hopefully I'll remember this next year, and I won't be quite as optimistic about the summer. Being crushed by the return of student loan. Oh, yeah, man. The world is a disaster right now. But where were your kids? Yes. Dude, like I said, every single, I thought about you guys all the time. And of course, I did make sure to be on Discord as much as I could. You can be free to join our Discord and come and hang out, say hi. There's a link to it. And you can also flag yourself as being interested in YouTube, like for when I go live on YouTube or put up other videos and whatnot, all that sort of stuff. And then of course I also have merch down below that you can pick up, a t-shirt or a mug or whatever. All that's helpful. Yeah, exactly, Craig. Is that ultimately, yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I chose to be I chose a selfish path that way. I recognize the fact that a lot of fathers, especially, do not get the opportunity that I do to basically just be a full-time parent, for their child. And so as much as I get frustrated by how much time that takes or whatever, I do find it a real blessing. And the fact that you guys enable that is so meaningful to me and to a lot of people, actually. The fact that this is working is the only reason why, I'm not being bothered to get a real job so much or, whatever. So, hey, 07, thank you for that membership. Yeah, there's a $1 option. Yeah, the $1 option is because when I edit videos, I put them out to members a day early. And so I wanted an option that just gets you early videos and stuff. I understand. I'm just letting you guys know. I'm being candid and open with you guys. No? Where can I get the merch link? Is there nothing below? There's not a merch stuff below. I think you might have to have your payment information tied to YouTube to be able to see that. Oh, man. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. Found it. There you go. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Yeah, Craig. Exactly. And that's, yeah, that's it. You know? I try to remember that, like, even though the circumstances that get me into this situation is kind of wild, and there's definitely life paths that I probably would have preferred if you had asked me ahead of time, or if I had planned it for myself. I can look at my life and objectively say it's quite blessed. And I try to remember that as much as I can. All right. Well, you know what? I've been fumbling around for enough, so I'm going to hit the ad one more time, and then head on out. So, thank you all for coming. I have been Ashtarothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put Eve into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys so much. Oh, I can't appreciate it. I can't express my appreciation enough. You guys are awesome. We're going to be awesome together. Let's make Eve great. I'll see you next time. Is that going to work?
Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city